Part 48. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Len. Chapter 471. Just as Qin Mu was thinking, Jin Cancan's soft and pleasant voice sounded again on the auction stage. Next, I will introduce the second treasure to you. She took a deep breath and said with courage, I believe you have been looking forward to the second treasure for a long time. Now let me introduce its specific effects. 90 million spirit crystals are indeed shocking, but they do not belong to her after all. Therefore, although Jin Cancan's pretty face flushed with excitement, she always remained sober and did not immerse herself in it. Of course, this does not mean that Jin Cancan was not shocked. After all, the terrifying value of 90 million spirit crystals is not something that can be found in the entire Deoxuan domain. Even the top forces in Deoxuan domain would probably find it difficult to take out 90 million spirit crystals at once, right? Jin Cancan is now more and more curious about Qin Mu. She originally thought that Qin Mu was the son of a hidden family, but seeing Qin Mu's approachable appearance, it seems that he is not much different from ordinary people. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Jin Cancan would never dare to believe that there is such a rich man in the world. 90 million spirit crystals were thrown out without any hesitation. It was simply inhumane. If she hadn't been hosting the auction, Jin Cancan would have gone up to chat with him. According to her hunch, the other party must have an extraordinary background, perhaps the direct descendant of a super clan in Deoxuan domain. If she could get in touch with the other party, it would be extremely beneficial to her future, and if they could become Taoist couples, it would be even better. Jin Cancan didn't know what she was thinking of, her face flushed more, and her heart beat faster. She quickly calmed down, retracted her distracting thoughts, and continued, I believe everyone can't wait, so I won't waste time talking, and now I will start auctioning the second treasure. Jin Cancan said, slowly opening the second box. Suddenly, a strong fragrance came to her nose, refreshing her heart and soul. Everyone was instantly pulled back to their thoughts, staring at the auction table, looking forward to it. But the next moment, they looked bitter. No matter how good the next collection was, it was destined to have nothing to do with them. The young man just now had already said that no matter what the final price was, he would pay 10,000 more than the highest price. He even took out 90 million spirit crystals directly, showing that he was not short of money. With such a rich man in front of them, how could they compete? 90 million, what is this concept? There may not be 90 million spirit crystals in the entire Xuanhuan city. Although they have some status, they are far away from this level of wealth. Even if they spend all their property, they probably can't even compare to the other party's fraction. This is the gap, an absolute gap, and there is no way to make up for it. The other party directly threw out 90 million spirit crystals, as if telling everyone that no matter how much you offer, he can suppress the heroes with his own strength. What kind of confidence and arrogance is this? Even if someone holds a grudge and competes secretly, they have to weigh the other party's strength. With such wealth, how could they dare to offend easily unless they were stupid? Not only did they not dare to offend, but they also felt ashamed. They worked hard to survive and struggled to get spiritual crystals, but they just threw out 90 million and squandered without restraint. Is the gap between people so big? Everyone, this thing is of great help to cultivators above the Void Realm and the Deo-slashing Realm, and even has an effect on the Saint Realm. The golden voice was crisp and contained a magical power that made people involuntarily attracted. The next collection is, a blood ginseng grass. When the golden voice sounded, everyone's eyes became fiery and their breathing became extremely heavy. Blood ginseng grass. A strange medicine that grows deep in the wild ancient forest and has a magnificent vitality is an extremely rare and precious medicinal material. Its function is very simple, improving the quality of the body, tempering the bones and muscles, and has a wonderful effect on the tempering of the body. This kind of medicinal material can be found occasionally in some special secret realms or relics. It is precious and hard to find on the market. Therefore, the value of this blood ginseng grass is enough to be worth hundreds of top-grade Xuanhuan pills. If a cultivator in the void realm takes blood ginseng grass, the physical body will be greatly enhanced, and it will be able to break through the bottleneck in a short period of time and reach a higher level of Zhandao. Therefore, for the cultivators in the void realm, blood ginseng grass has a fatal temptation. Blood ginseng grass. This is a treasure that can really be used. His such a rich life essence. This breath is definitely blood ginseng grass. If you can take a blood ginseng grass, it is enough to make the physical body of the Zhandao realm cultivator reborn and achieve a holy body. Tisk tisk, such a blood ginseng grass is worth hundreds of Xuanhuan pills. At this moment, everyone's eyes were red, and they wanted to rush to the auction platform immediately. Unfortunately, they didn't dare. They knew they didn't have the ability, and they knew what the price was to go on stage to snatch the blood ginseng grass. Unless they are crazy. However, even so, they were still extremely envious and itchy in their hearts. They just wished they were the one who could eat the blood ginseng grass. Blood ginseng grass, the reserve price is 100,000 spirit crystals, and the bidding starts now. Jin Cancan's voice was brisk and sweet, revealing a charm that was intoxicating. 300,000 spirit crystals. 500,000. 800,000. After Jin Cancan's words fell, the bidding of the crowd broke out without stopping. One after another, the voices gathered from all directions, shocking everyone's scalp. In a blink of an eye, the price of the blood ginseng grass soared to 1 million spirit crystals, and there was still no sign of stopping, as if it would never stop. And there was a trend of getting higher and higher. Everyone was shocked. This was too exaggerated. A mere blood ginseng grass was worth so much. Obviously, even if they knew that this blood ginseng grass might not belong to them in the end, they still couldn't help but bid the price. 1,600,000, just when the price climbed to 1,500,000, a sinister voice suddenly resounded throughout the venue, which seemed quite harsh. Hearing this voice, the whole audience suddenly quieted down, and pairs of eyes looked at the auction table, full of fear. It's him, Zhao Yunfan, the senior brother of Wang Jianmen. Zhao Yunfan finally couldn't sit still. With his current cultivation, as long as he takes down this blood ginseng grass, he can probably enter the realm of saints, right? It's very likely. Zhao Yunfan is the senior brother of Wang Jianmen. He has extremely strong cultivation and is said to have reached the realm of half-step saints. His strength is terrifying. He once killed a demon beast at the peak of the Zhandao realm with his own hands. His strength is strong enough to look down on the heroes. This can be seen just by the momentum he showed. Most people present knew Zhao Yunfan and knew that he was notoriously ruthless. If you provoke him, you will lose half your life if you don't die. Jin Cancan raised his eyebrows and looked at Zhao Yunfan. He was dressed in gorgeous clothes, with a tall figure, handsome and outstanding temperament, like a gentleman with elegant demeanor. But unfortunately, compared with the gentleman just now, he was still a lot worse. Zhao Yunfan seemed to have noticed it, and gave Jin Cancan a meaningful smile. Then he looked at box 11 and bowed slightly. Fellow deist, the blood ginseng grass is very important to me. I would like to ask you to give it up. How about it? Obviously, he knew that if he wanted to get this blood ginseng grass, he could not get around the VIP room 11. After all, this blood ginseng grass will eventually be auctioned off by VIP room 11, unless he can come up with more than 90 million spiritual crystals. In VIP room 11. Qin Mu looked at Zhao Yunfan and ignored him. He was very busy now, so he had no time to deal with this guy. Young master, do you need some tea? The maid in the box was wearing a cool dress with a high slit, revealing her white chest at the neckline, which was dazzling. Her charming face leaned against Xuanhuan and asked with tenderness and consideration. Yet Xuanhuan replied lazily, reaching out to play with the little hand of another maid in his arms. The maid's body was soft, she lowered her head, her mouth raised a charming arc, and her eyes flashed with the luster of spring water. She felt that she was completely melted. Although this distinguished guest was young, he was generous, handsome, and powerful. He was simply a model of a perfect man. She decided to seize this opportunity, otherwise she would probably have no hope of following such a man in her life. Then please wait a moment, sir. I will bring it to you right away to make tea. The gentle voice of the maid behind Xuanhuan floated in the air. She slowly stood up, slowly left Xuanhuan's side, twisted her slender waist, and walked out of the house. Sir. Soon, a fragrant breeze blew into her nose, and the maid walked in slowly with a tray. Sir, please enjoy. She put down the tray, and a charming smile appeared on her pretty face flushed slightly, and she looked like she was ready to be picked. Xuanhuan glanced at the maid, did not say anything, and took a sip of the teacup. The tea was elegant and clear, exuding a faint fragrance that made people feel refreshed. Sir, how is it? Is it to your taste? The maid blinked her big watery eyes and stared at Xuanhuan without blinking. Well, not bad. Xuanhuan nodded, and his eyes swept in front of the maid for a few circles, with a glimmer of light in his eyes. Thank you for the compliment, sir. The maid's cheeks became more and more rosy, and she looked shy. If Xuanhuan had not been through hundreds of battles and had rich experience, I'm afraid it would be difficult to resist the temptation. However, this level of temptation is far from enough. Immediately, Xuanhuan looked up at the maid, and a curve appeared at the corner of his mouth. Seeing this, the maid's heart beat wildly, her cheeks burned, and her breathing became rapid. Could it be? By the way, sir, do you have any other instructions? The maid looked at Xuanhuan and asked, her beautiful eyes fluctuating, vaguely revealing desire. Xuanhuan made a gesture with his eyes, and the maid understood instantly, and gave Xuanhuan a shy look. Then she slowly squatted down. Xuanhuan changed his posture comfortably, hugged another maid in his arms, and tasted the fragrant tea leisurely. Xuanhuan in the auction hall arched his hands for a long time, but found that no one responded at all. His expression froze slightly, and he was a little embarrassed. This guy dared to ignore me. Xuanhuan's eyes flashed coldly, and his fists clenched. He was the eldest disciple of the Wanjian sect and a quasi-sage cultivator. Everyone who saw him was servile and flattering. Even the masters of the major sects did not dare to offend him. How could he have been treated so coldly? Xuanhuan was angry, his eyes fell on the VIP room number 11, and he snorted in his heart. However, he still suppressed it, pondered for a moment, and continued, fellow Taoist, if you are willing to give up this blood ginseng grass, I am willing to exchange it for other items of equal value. I can also be friends with you on behalf of Wanjianmen. I will definitely be rich in rewards in the future. Xuanhuan's words were sincere. The purpose of his auction of blood ginseng grass was to break through to the realm of Saint. The auction was fiercely competitive and experts from all walks of life gathered together. He was worried that the blood ginseng grass would not be auctioned, so he came here specially. Originally, with his strength, it would be easy to snatch the blood ginseng grass. But what I didn't expect was that number 11 appeared halfway. As soon as these words came out, everyone around him couldn't help but take a breath. They knew that this treasure tonight was probably what Xuanhuan needed. The bargaining chip offered by Xuanhuan is definitely worthy of conscience. If it were them, they would have agreed long ago. However, VIP room number 11 was always silent, and it seemed that Xuanhuan was not noticed at all. Xuanhuan's face became a little gloomy. He has raised the conditions to this level and yet he is still not satisfied. At this time, just listen to the sound finally coming from box 11. Qin Mu's lips curled up in a sarcastic arc, and he said indifferently, "You want it?" "Yes," Zhao Yunfan said calmly. "I hope fellow Taoist can praise Zhao and give me a small favor." "Oh," Qin Mu smiled, "your face is nothing." Zhao Yunfan's face darkened and his eyes were cold. "Your Excellency, this blood ginseng grass is of great use to me. I hope you can do it conveniently and give it to me." Zhao Yunfan's tone became more serious and contained a threatening meaning. A powerful aura came out of him, as if a wild beast had awakened. This aura was extremely frightening, causing many monks around him to change their expressions. Many people secretly sighed that Zhao Yunfan was so powerful that he was worthy of being a genius of Wanjian sect. "Sorry, I've also taken a fancy to this blood ginseng grass. You'd better not take any chances with it." Qin Mu shook his head. "Fellow Taoist, don't make a toast or drink as a penalty." Zhao Yunfan's tone was cold, and the smile on his face disappeared, replaced by a strong evil aura. "If fellow Taoist insists on blocking it, don't blame Zhao for turning against him." Qin Mu raised his eyelids and glanced at him. "Get lost." The next second, he faintly uttered one word. Zhao Yunfan narrowed his eyes, and a startling cold light burst out from his eyes. How dare this person tell him to get lost? "Do you know what you just said?" Zhao Yunfan's voice was low, exuding murderous intent. "You will pay a heavy price for your arrogance and stupidity." "Oh." Hearing this, Qin Mu couldn't help laughing and sneered, "That's a lot of nonsense." Zhao Yunfan's expression twisted a few times, but he was finally suppressed. After all, this was an auction house, and he didn't dare to cause trouble. And although he didn't know what the background was in VIP room number 11, since the other party was not afraid of him and was obviously stronger than him, he could only endure it. "Okay. I will remember you." Zhao Yunfan left a harsh word, turned around and left, filled with resentment and shame. Seeing that Zhao Yunfan was about to leave, Jin Kankan on the padding stage breathed a sigh of relief. Although she was not afraid of causing trouble with the third elder around, it was better to stay safe. According to the request of VIP number 11, he automatically bid 1.7 million spiritual crystals. "Is there anything higher than this?" Jin Kankan looked around and asked loudly. Everyone was silent. Jin Kankan blinked, and after waiting for a while, he began to prepare to announce the ownership of this collection. However, at this moment, several tyrannical auras suddenly burst out from a distance, extremely fast, approaching the auction stage in an instant. "At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Leng Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 472. Rumble. The next moment, with a deafening loud noise, the entire auction table shook violently and collapsed directly. Fortunately, the auction hall was protected by a formation, otherwise it would have been completely destroyed by this blow. But even so, when this heavy blow hit, the entire hall was filled with dust and smoke. The bottom of the auction table was a mess. Everything happened too fast, and before anyone could react, a large section of the hall collapsed, with dust flying and smoke filling the air. "What's going on? What happened? Damn it! Activate the formation quickly and defend the hall. What's going on? What kind of attack is this? Could it be that a powerful monster from the demon race is coming? Who dares to trespass on the territory of my Golden Light sect? Are you tired of living a crooked life?" Everyone roared angrily, their faces full of shock. It all happened so suddenly. Suddenly, the whole auction house was in a state of excitement. Many monks hid in panic, some wanted to leave immediately, and some even had flashing eyes, wanting to take advantage of the situation. The guards at the auction house also reacted quickly and quickly deployed defensive formations to resist the attacks, and at the same time sent people to report the news. At the same time, various defensive restrictions in the hall were suddenly triggered, and a bright light curtain enveloped the entire hall. However, After only holding on for 2 breaths, it completely collapsed and was unable to withstand this sudden attack. One after another figures flew from the sky, hovering above everyone's heads. The clothes of these people were making noisy noises, and their bodies exuded an extremely fierce aura, as if war immortals from outside the world had descended, which was suffocating. The whole hall began to shake under this pressure, shaking violently, as if thousands of armies were colliding, as if the end was coming. Ah! A shrill scream came, and immediately after, everyone saw only a man in black robe running away from the ruins. When everyone took a closer look, they were shocked to find that the black-robed man's arm was broken, blood was splattered, and he was seriously injured. Seeing this, everyone's expressions changed slightly. The figure of the man in black robe gradually stopped, revealing a pale and young face, with split-eyed eyes and a ferocious look on his face. Only then did everyone realize that he turned out to be Xuanhuan, a disciple of Wanjian sect. He was covered in blood, his hair was disheveled, and he was in a miserable state. Many monks were stunned. They never expected that Xuanhuan was actually injured. And he was still seriously injured. You know, Xuanhuan is a half-step saint. To be able to force Xuanhuan to this point, it can be predicted that the person who takes action must be very powerful, and may even be a saint. And just when everyone was stunned, a gloomy word came from the void. Don't leave anything here. Take everything away. Ja. The speaker was a mysterious black-robed man whose whole body was shrouded in black robes, his face was obscured by the brim of his hat, and his face could not be seen clearly. He let out a biting sneer. A monk looked up curiously and found that the other person's appearance, figure, and temperament were all blurry, making it difficult to see clearly and giving him a gloomy feeling. He stood in the void, with cold murderous intent exuding from his body, making people shudder. Everyone's hearts trembled, and they raised their heads one after another, and saw more than a dozen figures suspended in the void, each one releasing terrifying fluctuations. This aura seems to be that of a saint. A dozen saints. The pupils of many monks suddenly shrank, their faces changed drastically, and the hairs all over their bodies stood up. Jin Kankan was also startled and looked subconsciously. Just from the attire of these people, it is not possible to tell which sect the other person comes from, because everyone is dressed in the same uniform and wears a black gauze hat, which makes it difficult to see clearly. But she could tell it from the breath. These guys are definitely saints, otherwise they wouldn't have such terrifying auras. There are even a few figures whose auras are deep and vast. They are obviously not at the ordinary saint realm level, but exist at the 9th level of the saint realm. Moreover, each of these people exudes a ferocious and cruel aura, like a group of demons that choose people to devour, and their aura is extremely terrifying. These people are definitely coming with bad intentions. So many saints? Which sect are these? Why have I never heard of them? Guan Kankan's heart was filled with turmoil, and his eyes were solemn. Feeling the monstrous aura emanating from these saints, everyone was so frightened that their souls were dying, their expressions were horrified, and they involuntarily sucked in cold air. You must know that the realm of saints is already considered the top existence in this world. Every saint has mastered a trace of the power of law and is powerful. More than a dozen saints gathered here, what a spectacular scene this is. And judging from their appearance, they seem to have laid an ambush for a long time, and they were obviously here specifically for today's auction. Could it be said that there is something special in today's auction that deserves their efforts? For a moment, the faces of many monks at the auction were extremely ugly. Although they are also very powerful, compared with the dozen or so saints in front of them, they are not on the same level at all. It can even be said that they are not in the same world. It's over now. Everyone smiled bitterly, cursing the bad luck in their hearts. GGG. Hand over the treasure and Rao will not die. If you are stubborn, you will be killed without mercy. A series of hoarse and low voices sounded, like the howling of ghosts and wolves, which made people shudder and their scalps numb. Along with those eerie and terrifying voices, a series of sharp and domineering auras locked on everyone, as if to tear them into pieces and crush them to pieces. Under this terrible aura, many monks shivered, their faces became paler, their legs couldn't help but tremble, and cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Jin Kenken swallowed his saliva, and heard the voice transmission of the third elder hidden in the dark, and his heart was relieved. She took a deep breath, narrowed her beautiful eyes, and warned. Everyone, this is the Golden Light Sect, I hope you don't mess around. Otherwise, even if the forces behind you are powerful, you can't afford the wrath of the Golden Light Sect. He he. The black-robed man laughed strangely. Since we dare to come, we are naturally well prepared. How can we be afraid of the wrath of the Golden Light Sect? After speaking, the void rippled again, and 3 figures emerged. Hiss. Seeing this, everyone took a breath and exclaimed. Because, these are 3 saints again. This is a posture that will not give up until the goal is achieved. Ha ha ha, little bastards, just surrender. Don't struggle in vain, kneel down quickly, and offer the treasure with both hands, I may spare your life. A man in black laughed wildly, full of teasing. Ha ha, you are just a few saints, do you really think that our Jingguang sect is afraid of you? The third elder of the Jingguang sect, who had been hiding in the dark, finally couldn't hold back and slowly walked out of the shadows, saying coldly. She wanted to wait until the reinforcements sent by the Jingguang sect arrived before appearing again, but if the situation continued, the other party would probably do anything. Her mind turned quickly, and she thought of various coping plans. No matter what, she would delay time first. As soon as the third elder came out, he immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. The third elder of the Golden Light sect has finally appeared, great. The third elder is a peak saint, and it is said that he has comprehended a ray of the quasi-emperor law, and his combat power far exceeds that of the cultivators of the same level. That's good, the third elder of the Golden Light sect is here, these guys can't escape even if they have wings. Humph, don't be too happy too early, these people are not simple, didn't you see the ones who just appeared? Yes, they are all saints, and their strength is very terrifying. Although the third elder is powerful, he is just one person. Seeing the third elder of the Golden Light sect appear, everyone in the Golden Light sect breathed a sigh of relief, and their eyes looking at the third elder were full of expectations and admiration. This is faith, and it is also a pillar. Although the third elder of the Golden Light sect is a woman, she has a very high prestige in the Golden Light sect, and can even be on par with the leader. Her strength is unquestionable, and her combat power is unparalleled in ancient and modern times. She is known as the second strongest person in the Golden Light sect, and is one of the best in the entire Piao Miao domain. Over the years, she has killed many holy monsters, and even strong men of the same level as her have been injured by her. Unfortunately, these men in black don't buy it at all, and they don't have the slightest fear. Old woman, stop talking nonsense, take out the things quickly, otherwise I will make you live a life worse than death, a man in black said fiercely, his voice full of bloodthirsty madness. You are looking for death, the third elder of the Golden Light sect was furious, and a brilliant golden light burst out of his body. The whole person turned into a sun, bursting out with dazzling light. Rumble. In an instant, the surrounding void boiled, the rolling thunder was deafening, and in the flashing golden light, a majestic formation exuding an ancient and vast atmosphere instantly appeared in front of everyone. Runes jumped and cruised on the surface of the formation, outlining and constructing endless visions, mysterious and mysterious. The whole formation was like a giant dragon resurrected in the wilderness, bursting out with a destructive aura. The formation was in operation, and golden rays of light surged out, penetrating the 9 heavens and 10 earths, covering an area of 10,000 miles, forming a giant cage that enveloped many black-clothed men. The golden light rushed into the sky, sweeping across the vast land. "Huh? How dare you stop us with such a trick?" a black-clothed man sneered. He raised his hand and shot out a stream of light, which fell into the formation, and the formation suddenly fluctuated violently. Then, a dark river rushed out, sweeping across the sky, carrying the power of destruction and rushing towards the golden light net. This is the power of a saint, containing unparalleled pressure. Hula la. The dark river hit the golden light net, and suddenly a loud noise broke out, setting off a huge wave. "Stop it!" The third elder of the Golden Light sect shouted and urged the formation. In an instant, the formation's brilliance surged, blooming with a huge golden glow. Boom! The two collided, the waves exploded, the wind howled, and the sky collapsed. The formation trembled violently, and the golden light net kept shaking, as if it would collapse at any time. Crack, crack. The golden light net appeared with fine cracks, as if it would break at any time. "Hee, old woman, you want to trap us with just a big formation? You underestimate us too much." A man in black sneered, with a cruel arc on the corner of his mouth and a contemptuous tone. Seeing this scene, the people of the Golden Light sect changed their colors, exclaimed repeatedly, and their faces were extremely ugly. "Damn, who are these guys? How can they have such terrible fighting power? Their power seems to be endless, and they are getting braver and braver as they fight. No, the third elder seems to be unable to hold on. If this continues, we will all be finished. Why hasn't the support arrived yet? Hey, the third elder is already very strong, but I didn't expect the other party to be so terrifying." Everyone was worried and anxious. Humph. Listening to their discussions, the third elder's pretty face turned pale, and she was very angry, but she could do nothing about it. At this time, she did feel a little tired, and her whole body was sore and weak. These black-clothed men were too fierce, especially the leading black-clothed men, who were even more terrifying. Each of them had the peak cultivation of saints, and their combat effectiveness was far superior to that of ordinary monks who had just entered the saint level. Even with the same cultivation, they were far from their opponents. And the opponent's offensive was fierce and sharp, as if they were tireless. After each offensive, another group of people would immediately join in. "Old woman, you don't have to insist anymore, just hand over the treasure on the auction table," a man in black said indifferently. "Old woman, why don't you speak? Keep shouting, why don't you say anything?" another man in black said sarcastically. "Humph. You despicable guys actually use this method to humiliate us, it's really despicable." Jin Kankan gritted his teeth, his eyes were extremely red. "Ha ha, ha ha." The man in black laughed unscrupulously. "This is called outsmarting, you know shit." "Outsmart your sister," Jin Kankan roared angrily, his eyes were scarlet. "Don't waste time talking to her, hurry up and search, leave as soon as possible." "Ha ha ha. That's right, take the treasures on the auction table as soon as possible. Hurry up and work. When we get the things, we will retreat and continue to rob at the next stop. That's enough fun. Ha ha ha." For a while, all the men in black stared at the treasures on the auction table, as if hungry wolves met delicious food and wanted to swallow them in one bite. "You bastards, the Golden Light sect will never forgive you." Jin Kankan was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. But being angry was useless. She couldn't change the situation at all. The only thing she could do was to pray that the formation of the third elder could resist them for a while. Bang! Suddenly, a muffled sound came from the formation, and then it exploded with a bang, and the light rain splashed all over the sky, disappearing without a trace. Puff! The third elder spit out a mouthful of blood, his face was as pale as paper, and his body was shaking. "The formation has been broken. Everyone, hurry up," a leader in black shouted excitedly, and then led many black-clad people to swarm to the auction table. "Damn it, you won't succeed," Jin Kankan gritted her teeth and fought hard. This was her first time hosting an auction. How could it be messed up by these people? Unfortunately, her strength was too weak, and she was defeated in just one encounter, seriously injured, and fell to the ground and couldn't get up. Not only that, the rings in her hand containing 90 million spirit crystals were also snatched away by a black-clad man without any hesitation. "No. No. You can't take this away," Jin Kankan screamed miserably, watching the 90 million spirit crystals being taken away by others. Her heart was bleeding, her liver and intestines were broken, she screamed in despair, and tears blurred her eyes in an instant. So many spirit crystals were snatched away, what could she use to pay them back? However, her screams and wails had no effect, and did not even attract the attention of the black-clothed men. Shua shua shua. After a few breaths, more than a dozen black-clothed men collected all the treasures, and then left here contentedly, leaving only a mess. The empty auction hall seemed particularly desolate and silent. "No. Don't go. You are not allowed to leave," Jin Kankan cried, her eyes filled with bloodshot. But the dozen black-clothed men still left without looking back, and disappeared from sight in a blink of an eye, making her even more desperate. "Weevu. How could this happen, how could this happen, Weevu?" Jin Kankan cried heartbreakingly, heartbroken, and full of regret. She collapsed on the ground, crying bitterly, her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Third Elder, the remaining disciples were full of grief. On the other side, the formation was broken, and the third elder was seriously injured and had lost the ability to resist. Her face was as pale as paper, her eyes were wide open, and her face was full of despair and unwillingness. "It's all my fault for being incompetent." "Third elder!" A group of Jingguang sect disciples screamed in grief, their eyes moistened, and tears could not help but flow out. "Alas, I didn't expect that in this life, I would still fall into the hands of these bastards." The third elder sighed to the sky, his face full of loneliness, his heart full of regret and helplessness. At this moment, a voice sounded faintly. "Dad, how are you going to compensate me for my 90 million spirit crystals?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 473. Hearing this, the third elder was stunned for a moment, then raised his head with difficulty. At this moment, a handsome young face came into her eyes. He was slowly walking towards her, his face as gloomy as water, and there was a hint of heartache in his eyes. "It's him." After seeing that face clearly, the third elder's pupils suddenly shrank into needle-like shapes. This man who suddenly appeared is the young man who just took out 90 million spiritual crystals. And just now those men in black took away all the other party's spiritual crystals, leaving none behind. It was so unconscionable. The other party's spiritual crystal was taken away from them by the Golden Light section. Logically speaking, they should indeed pay compensation. If it is robbed outside the auction, it has nothing to do with their Golden Light sect. Little brother, that. The third elder hesitated for a long time, looking extremely embarrassed, and could not find a suitable title. After all, they had never met each other. Qin Mu snorted coldly, "Let me ask you, where is my spiritual crystal now?" The third elder hesitated for a moment, gritted his teeth and said, Little brother, I'm really sorry, ahem. Little brother, I'm ashamed to have caused you trouble." The third elder apologized awkwardly, his cheeks burning. The dignified third elder of Jingguang sect actually caused his sect's distinguished guest to be robbed. It was truly a shame and a great humiliation. and in full view of so many people, after today's incident, the reputation of the Golden Light Sect auction can be said to have been basically destroyed. Who dares to come here to participate in an auction where the safety factor is not guaranteed? Jin Can also came to her senses at this time. She wiped away her tears and said hurriedly, "Young master, we are sorry for you. The spiritual crystal has been temporarily taken away, but please believe that our Golden Light Sect will definitely help you get it back." Qin Mu frowned slightly. "Catch me back? Do you think it's possible?" Jin Can lowered his head, not daring to look into Qin Mu's eyes, and said aggrievedly, "I'm sorry, it's us who have caused trouble for you. Don't worry, we will definitely help you recover the spiritual crystal." "I don't believe you, I want to get my spiritual crystal back now," Qin Mu was determined. Hearing this, Jin Can was dumbfounded and said anxiously, "Sir, I know you must be very angry, but we can't afford so much money now, and it's not enough to compensate you." Jin Can's tone was very embarrassing. She had been worried about this matter just now, but she didn't expect it to happen. 90 million spiritual crystals, even if I sell her, I can't afford the compensation. You don't have to talk nonsense with me anymore. The spiritual crystal was lost in your hands, and you must bear all the responsibilities. Qin Mu looked at her coldly. Hearing this, Jin Can's face turned pale, his body shook twice, and he almost fell to the ground. She bit her lip tightly, holding back the tears that were about to burst out of her eyes, and whispered, "Sir, don't blame me, this really has nothing to do with me." She was filled with guilt and remorse. How could an auction that was originally going well turn into this? Jin Can was very anxious and frightened inside, and she didn't know what to do now. The only thing she hopes now is that her master can send someone to investigate the matter as soon as possible. Otherwise, this matter will completely cause a big fuss and have a very negative impact on the Golden Light Sect. At this time, everyone in the auction house gradually calmed down their inner panic and walked out from the hidden corner. After hearing the conversation between Qin Mu and Jin Can, they were all stunned, and then quickly reacted. They felt secretly happy about Qin Mu's experience. "You are showing off. It must have been counterattacked. All 90 million spiritual crystals are gone. Ha 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 ha." Everyone who came to participate in the auction had this idea in their hearts. This kind of gloating expression and smile is simply more joyful than them getting 90 million spiritual crystals. Everyone looked at Qin Mu with eyes full of ridicule, teasing, contempt and ridicule, as if they were waiting for Qin Mu to fly into a rage. This young man is so unlucky that he would encounter such a thing. Alas! Tisk, 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 I thought this young man was so powerful, but it turns out he's just mediocre. Hey, do you think he will go crazy because of this? I don't know about this, but if I lost 90 million spiritual crystals, I would definitely go crazy. There was a lot of discussion around him, and everyone was staring at Qin Mu with expressions of gloating, as if they had seen something funny. Listening to the mocking sounds coming from the people around him, Qin Mu seemed to turn a deaf ear. His face remained extremely indifferent. He glanced at Jin Can, narrowed his eyes, and said in an extremely cold tone, "What do you mean? You don't plan to take responsibility? He has made it very clear that this debt must be borne by the Jingguang sect. But the other party still shirks responsibility and is unwilling to take responsibility. Qin Mu has never seen such a shameless and daring person. It is simply disgusting." "Master, calm down, of course I am not an irresponsible person," Jin Can immediately explained. "It's just that I don't have so many spiritual crystals on my body now. Please be patient and let me report it to the master. When the master comes back, he will definitely give you an explanation." She kept rubbing her fingers, tears in her eyes, her heart was in turmoil and she was uneasy. That pretty face was full of sorrow and worry, and her charming appearance made people pity her. She really didn't expect things to turn out like this, and the auction that was originally good would develop into the current situation. Jin Kankan still didn't figure out where the dozen powerful black-clothed men came from just now. She couldn't find any clues about these people in her memory, let alone know them. There was no force in Piao Miao domain that could send out so many saints at one time, which could only mean that those black-clothed men came from other places. At this time, the third elder standing next to him said, "Little brother, how about this? I will take this account for Kankan, and I will definitely give you an explanation after I invite the deputy leader back." The third elder was very anxious, and she didn't want to waste time here. The most important thing now is to quickly inform the deputy leader of what happened here, and then send people to chase and kill those black-clothed men. Jin Kankan also nodded hurriedly and agreed. "Yes, yes, yes, sir, how about this? You stay in Jingguang sect for a few days, we will send someone to help you find the spirit crystal." Qin Mu sneered, his eyes were cold, and a hint of sarcasm appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Haha, if I go to your Jingguang sect's territory, won't I be at your mercy?" Jin Kankan shook her head in panic and explained, "Sir, I absolutely don't mean anything else. It's just. She racked her brains but couldn't describe her current situation. Her eyes were red with anxiety. "Oh, sir, can you come with me to Jingguang sect to rest for a few days? Please." Qin Mu looked at Jin Kankan indifferently, snorted coldly, and said, "I won't go to your place, I'll wait here." This. Jin Kankan hesitated. At this time, the third elder pulled Jin Kankan's sleeve, signaling her not to speak first, let him communicate. "Sir, you can rest assured about safety. Our Jingguang sect is one of the top-notch forces in Piao Miao domain. We still have some credibility. And not only did you lose 90 million spirit crystals, we also lost a lot of auction treasures, so our Jingguang sect will definitely do its best to catch those robbers." The third elder's tone was full of pride, as if their Jingguang sect was the most powerful sect in the world. "Really?" Qin Mu stared at her with a smile. The third elder felt uncomfortable under Qin Mu's sharp eyes, and she laughed dryly, "Of course." Qin Mu nodded gently and said, "In this case, I will give you Jingguang sect a chance. If you can't bring the robbers who stole my things to justice within one day, don't blame me for turning my face and not keeping my word." Jin Kankan and the third elder looked at each other, and heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. They finally got away with it. Although the other party set a deadline of 1 day, the time was very tight. But just as the other party said, as long as they enter the territory of the Golden Light sect, can they really make a big splash? In any case, as long as the reputation of the Golden Light sect is stabilized first, it is most important to retain as much as possible. The reputation of the Golden Light sect auction has probably fallen to the bottom in the hearts of the people. If they turn their backs on it at this time, it will be even worse. "Don't worry, my lord, we will do our best to arrest those bandits and give you a satisfactory answer." The third elder patted his chest and promised, then turned around and asked, Kankan, "I'm going to call the senior leaders to discuss this matter now, you stay here to accompany the young master?" Jin Kankan nodded, "Okay, I know, third elder, go quickly." Before leaving, the third elder secretly glanced at Qin Mu, his eyes gloomy, revealing a trace of cold light. Qin Mu seemed not to notice it, he lowered his eyelids slightly, hiding the deep obscurity in his eyes. Jin Kankan first looked at the other people in the auction house and announced that today's auction would be temporarily over and held another day. After hearing this, everyone left the auction house in an orderly manner under the arrangement of the disciples of the Jingguang sect. They were worried that the blacks would come back and kill again, and they had already thought about leaving here, so they all dispersed in a short while. The entire auction venue became empty in an instant, leaving only Jin Kankan and Qin Mu, as well as several elders of the Jingguang sect. Qin Mu stood outside the auction house, watching the crowd gradually go away, with a hint of teasing in his eyes. Young master, Jin Kankan walked over quickly, are you okay? Qin Mu retracted his gaze and shook his head, saying, I'm fine. Jin Kankan bit her lower lip, lowered her head, and said guiltily, I'm sorry, our Jingguang sect caused you to lose so many spirit crystals. Looking at Qin Mu's lonely appearance, Jin Kankan suddenly felt a little guilty. Although the Jingguang sect suffered a great loss, the other party was robbed because of it, and they should bear the responsibility. It's okay. As long as we can get the spirit crystal back, all the efforts will be worth it. Qin Mu waved his hand. Then he raised his head again, and his dark eyes stared straight at Jin Kankan. By the way, where are we going now? Sir, please follow me, Jin Kankan said respectfully. Qin Mu raised his feet and walked towards the outside of the auction house. As soon as he stepped out of the auction stage, he felt a huge pressure coming overwhelmingly, covering the entire space. Jin Kankan's heart was beating fast. She looked up to the sky with surprise on her face. Master is here. As soon as she finished speaking, a white-haired old man wearing a golden robe and an immortal spirit fell from the sky. Jin Kankan quickly knelt down and shouted excitedly, Disciple has met the master. The old man slowly landed on the ground and glanced at the messy scene in the auction house. There was a bit of anger and sternness in his brows. He didn't expect that while he was just coveting a moment of leisure, someone actually had his mind set on the Golden Light Sex auction. Get up, the old man said. Thank you, Master. Jin Kankan stood up. Deputy leader, at this time, several other elders of the Golden Light sect came forward one after another. The old man nodded and ordered with a serious expression, I'm aware of the situation and will hunt down those bastards immediately. Remember, don't make any noise. Yes, everyone responded in unison. The old man's eyes fell on Qin Mu, and he frowned slightly and said, Are you the distinguished guest who lost 90 million spiritual crystals? That's right, Qin Mu nodded. Hearing this, the old man's brows furrowed more and more tightly. He looked at Qin Mu carefully for a while and asked, Who are you from? Which force do you come from? Qin Mu raised his eyebrows. What? Do you need to reveal your identity to participate in the auction? I don't dare, this leader is just curious, the old man said calmly. Qin Mu looked at the old man calmly, I have no family and no sect, traveling all over the world. The old man's eyes flickered. Oh. I wonder how strong your excellency is. Being able to produce 90 million spiritual crystals must be very extraordinary, the old man continued. Qin Mu snorted coldly and said in a cold tone, I don't have time to play this kind of guessing game with you. I advise you to get my spiritual crystal back as soon as possible. The old man raised his eyebrows and said, You are not young but you have a bad temper. Qin Mu crossed his arms across his chest, squinting at him, and the corners of his mouth curved in an extremely mocking way, You'd better not annoy me, otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. The old man suddenly became furious and shouted, You are so arrogant. The momentum around him was surging, like mountains rolling over each other, terrifying and frightening, as if the entire world was about to be destroyed in an instant. At the same time, a bright and dazzling light burst out of his body, like burning flames. At this time, several other elders of the Golden Light sect hurriedly took action, stopped the old man, and shouted, Deputy leader, now is not the time to worry about these things. The most important thing is to arrest those thieves and robbers first. After hearing this, the old man stopped for a moment, and the anger in his heart calmed down a bit. What these elders said is right, a long time has passed now, and if we don't pursue it, it may be too late. Moreover, they still don't know where those dozen black-clothed saints come from, whether they are deliberately targeting the Golden Light sect or whether they are randomly plundering them. If it is the former, then the Golden Light sect cannot take it lightly. Now that their leader is going to Deoxuan domain to participate in the centenary celebration, the Golden Light sect is no longer at its peak combat power, so they must be even more careful. The young man in front of him was able to produce 90 million spiritual crystals, and his attitude was so arrogant, without any fear of his identity. He must have an extraordinary background. At this time, the Golden Light sect must not cause any more trouble. After thinking about all this, the old man glanced at Qin unwillingly, and finally decided to give up the punishment. After you finish dealing with those men in black, come back to settle the score with this little bastard. Let's go. After saying these words, the old man walked away, leading a dozen saints and elders to pursue the so-called man in black. Master, walk slowly, Jin Kankan shouted loudly, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the master didn't care, otherwise he would have been in trouble. But this young man was so brave that he dared to talk back to his master. Jin Kankan couldn't help but sweat for Qin. She looked at Qin with a flattering look on her face. Master, let me take you to the Golden Light sect to rest first. Qin nodded, then walked out of the auction house. After Qin left, silence returned to the auction hall, leaving only a mess as a reminder of the tragedy that had just happened. On top of the towering mountains, there are hundreds of simple and majestic buildings. This is the core site of the Jingguang sect headquarters. On the gate of the sect made of white jade is hung a gilt plaque, Jingguang sect. Qin followed Jin Kankan smoothly and walked into the mountain gate of Jingguang sect without any trouble. After passing through several powerful sect-protecting formations from the Golden Light sect, Qin suddenly smiled and whispered to himself, now that we're here, there's really no challenge. After a pause, he commented again, well, it's just as smooth as last time. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 474. Qin did not hide his voice, so Jin Kankan next to him heard it clearly. What is so smooth? What are you talking about, young master? Jin Kankan blinked his watery peach blossom eyes blankly and asked doubtfully. Qin smiled and shook his head, it's okay, I was just talking casually. Oh, Jin Kankan scratched his head, and without thinking much, led Qin deeper into the Jingguang sect. As he walked, Jin Kankan introduced, Sir, our Jingguang sect occupies a vast area. In addition to the main hall, there are 7 entrances. Our Jingguang sect's elite disciples, core disciples, ordinary disciples, and some inner sects with excellent cultivation qualifications are stationed respectively. Disciple. Among them, the main hall is the most respected, and a competition will be held every 3 years to compete for the position of new core disciple. Qin listened with interest. Suddenly, Jin Kankan stopped and pointed in the distance, Sir, the main hall of our Golden Light sect has arrived. Following what she expected, Qin saw a splendid and magnificent palace complex. The palace complex was rolling up and down, faintly exuding huge coercion. Qin eyes brightened, is this the main hall of the Golden Light sect? Jin Kankan puffed up his chest proudly and nodded with a smile, yes, the main hall of our Jingguang sect is made of golden light stone. It is as strong as a sacred weapon. Jingguang stone is a material passed down from ancient times and has strong defense. Effect. Qin touched his chin and nodded thoughtfully, that should be very valuable, right? Hearing this, Jin Kankan was stunned and didn't seem to react, of course. Jingguangshi is the main material for refining holy weapons. Most people can't afford it. Moreover, it also has the property of restraining the intrusion of spiritual thoughts, which is very rare. But as she spoke, she seemed to suddenly come to her senses. His eyes widened suddenly, and he looked at Qin in shock, young master, what you mean is? Qin grinned innocently, smart. Jin Kankan. No way, right? It's not really what she thinks, is it? If you can't find my spiritual crystal, I think this palace can be used as a mortgage. Chinmu raised his eyebrows and stared at her with a half-smile. Looking at the young man's half-smiling expression, Jin Kankan couldn't help but swallow, and her heart twitched a few times. It was really what she thought. Ahem, although the golden lightstone is precious, it is not so exaggerated. Young master, please rest assured that our golden light sect is one of the most powerful forces in the misty domain, and we will definitely find ways to find spiritual crystals for you. Jin Kankan said with a dry cough. I hope so, Chinmu said lightly. And even if we can't get it back, our Jingguang sect will definitely find a way to compensate you, young master, and we won't let you down, Jin Kankan said dryly with a sneer. Since you are rich, I am not worried anymore, Chinmu said calmly. Jin Kankan immediately felt an inexplicable crisis, and quickly changed the subject, pointing to the palace not far away. Come on, young master, let's go in. Jin Kankan changed the topic and led Chinmu deeper into the Jingguang sect. Chinmu nodded slightly and walked over, with Jin Kankan following him step by step. While walking through the majestic golden palaces, the two met many oncoming golden light sect disciples. When these people saw Jin Kankan, they all bowed respectfully and called Senior Sister. Senior Sister, why are you free to bring people to the main hall today? A disciple saw Chinmu next to Jin Kankan and couldn't help but ask curiously. Yes, Senior Sister, is this your friend? He is so handsome. Another female disciple also came over with a smile. Sister, you are so lucky to have such a handsome friend, the disciples around him joked. The affairs of Wanyang city at the foot of the mountain have been kept confidential, so these disciples don't know what happened yet. They only saw their senior sister suddenly appear in the golden light sect with an unusually handsome but unfamiliar man. Jin Kankan's face turned red and he quickly waved his hand to explain, what nonsense are you talking about? This young master is a distinguished guest of our Jingguang sect, not my friend. Chinmu raised his eyebrows but did not refute. He glanced at Jin Kankan and scanned the surrounding buildings, a hint of admiration flashing in his eyes. The Golden Light sect is worthy of being one of the top forces in the Piamiao domain. Just looking at the architectural style and layout here, you can know how powerful it is. Between these majestic buildings, there is a wide bluestone staircase leading directly to the main hall. There are many runes carved on the steps, shining with dazzling light. At the end, a huge bronze door stands, dozens of feet high, with complex totem textures carved on it, vaguely revealing a simple and desolate atmosphere. A huge stone tablet with gold characters on a black background hangs above the gate, with 3 powerful characters of Jingguang sect written on it. There were dozens of armored guards standing under the stone tablet. Their expressions were solemn, their bodies exuded a cold aura, and their eyes were as sharp as blades, as sharp as any. Sir, please come with me. Jin Kankan led Chinmu to a bluestone path. The leader and deputy leader are not in the Jingguang sect now. With Jin Kankan's rights, he naturally has no right to open the sect's main hall to entertain guests. So the place where Chinmu will go later is obviously not here. Chinmu looked up at the end of the bluestone path, and saw a circular arch at the end of the path, and behind the arch was a lush and verdant forest. This forest was in an arc shape, surrounding the entire palace complex. The trees were towering into the clouds, and the branches and leaves covered the sky. The rich spiritual energy enveloped the entire forest. In the center of the forest, there were rows of attics, which were lined up in an orderly manner. Each building was exquisite and luxurious. Not only that, the outer walls of those attics and palaces were also painted with various array patterns, emitting a dazzling light. This is our Jingguang sect's guest room. Young master, please stay here first. Jin Kankan's soft voice sounded. Yes. Chinmu retracted his gaze and nodded to her. Then Jin Kankan led him away, leaving the group of Jingguang sect disciples talking about it, looking gossipy. The bluestone path twists and turns, as if there is no end in sight. After a while, the two had passed through numerous palaces, rockery and ponds, and came to the guest room area of the Jingguang section. Rows of exquisite houses are located between the forests, quiet and elegant. In the center of the forest stands a white jade pavilion, which has 6 floors and is as bright and warm as white jade. In front of the white jade pavilion, there is a huge sycamore tree that is 100 feet high. The crown covers half of the courtyard. Every night, the bright moonlight sprinkles on the treetops and trunks of the sycamore tree, casting colorful shadows, which is very beautiful. Obviously, Qin Mu will naturally live in this most beautiful guest room. It's here Jin Kankan stopped and pointed to the white jade pavilion in front of her, with a slightly excited tone. Qin Mu followed her gaze and nodded slightly. If you are tired, please take a rest. I will not disturb you. Jin Kankan smiled and turned to say goodbye. Wait a minute, Qin Mu suddenly called her. Hearing this, Jin Kankan stopped and turned to look at Qin Mu in confusion, not understanding why he called her. What else do you want, sir? Qin Mu's eyes were indifferent. Come in with me. Hearing this, Jin Kankan's cheeks flushed slightly. This is not appropriate. A single man and a single woman, living under the same roof. She has never been alone with a man before. And thinking of some possibilities, Jin Kankan became shy again. Seeing Jin Kankan's expression, Qin Mu said coldly, "Don't think too much, but I am worried that there is an ambush inside, so I let you go in first, and I will go in after. There is no problem." Jin Kankan, who was still thinking about it, heard this sentence, and suddenly became like a deflated ball, sluggish. She lowered her head and responded softly, "Oh, okay." So he didn't trust her. Jin Kankan walked slowly to Qin Mu's side, stretched out her slender index finger and poked her sleeve, and glanced at Qin Mu cautiously. "Then I'll go in." Qin Mu nodded slightly. After getting permission, Jin Kankan immediately quickened her pace and ran to the white jade pavilion. Squeak! Accompanied by a dull and long sound, the door of the white jade pavilion slowly opened. "Sir, please come this way." Jin Kankan turned sideways and made a gesture of invitation, and took the lead to step into it. Qin Mu followed her in, and when the two entered the hall, they immediately felt a refreshing floral scent coming towards them, which made people feel refreshed, as if they were in spring. This is actually a garden-style building complex, surrounded by various rare flowers and plants, and the air is filled with a faint fragrance. Tables and chairs are distributed everywhere in the courtyard, and the furnishings are exquisite and elegant, with great beauty. "Young master, please come this way." Jin Kankan led Qin Mu to a rosewood table and sat down, then poured tea and water in person, and served him diligently. "Is this how you treat VIPs in the Jingguang sect?" "It's just tea." Qin Mu took the teacup she handed him and drank a sip of tea, and asked calmly. This. Jin Kankan hesitated for a long time before saying weakly, "Now is an extraordinary period. Everyone in the Jingguang sect is busy and can't take care of other things at all." As she said, Jin Kankan took out another pot of wine, filled it for Qin Mu, and looked at him with a smile. Looking at her flattering look, Qin Mu still didn't appreciate it. He snorted coldly and spit out a few words indifferently. "I don't like drinking." "Then what should I do?" Jin Kankan pouted, a little distressed. "How about I take you for a walk? The scenery here is nice, maybe you will like it." After thinking for a while, she came up with a solution. "Forget it." However, Qin Mu rejected her proposal without hesitation. "I am not interested in your Jingguang section. I just want to get my own spiritual crystal back now." This. Jin Kankan sighed helplessly. "Okay." Qin Mu ignored her and picked up the teacup to continue tasting. Seeing his indifferent look, Jin Kankan pursed her lips, and a feeling of loss emerged in her heart. She knew that Qin Mu's identity was not simple, and she also knew that he was unwilling to pay attention to her. After all, it was she who lost his spiritual crystal. But all this was not what she wanted. She was also a victim. Seeing Jin Kankan standing beside her for a long time, Qin Mu raised his head and glanced at her lightly, saying, "Actually, I don't care much about those 90 million spiritual crystals. If I really can't find them back, it would be fine for your golden light sect to give her some compensation, okay?" Hearing this, Jin Kankan's eyes suddenly widened, he looked at Qin Mu in disbelief, and he almost jumped up with excitement. She thought Qin Mu didn't care, but she didn't expect that he was actually willing to back down. He just wanted some compensation? She knew that a noble and outstanding man like young master would definitely not care about those 90 million spiritual crystals. "Master, are you really willing to give in?" Jin Kankan couldn't help but confirm. Qin Mu nodded lightly, "Yes." He took another sip of tea and continued, "But your compensation must satisfy me." Don't worry, don't worry." Hearing that Qin Mu was willing to give up the pursuit, Jin Kankan nodded repeatedly and assured, "Don't worry, sir, don't say you just want some compensation, even if you ask me to do anything." She really didn't want to cause the entire Golden Light sect to suffer losses because of her mistakes. "That's fine." Qin Mu put down the teacup, stood up, and looked at Jin Kankan's delighted expression, with an evil curve on his lips. "How about you make it up to me?" "What?" Jin Kankan froze on the spot after hearing this. Qin Mu crossed his arms and leaned against the wall, with a playful smile on his lips, looking down at the woman in front of him with a low eyebrow. At this moment, she was raising her head, revealing her snow-white and slender neck, and her black and soft hair was spread over her shoulders, shining with little brilliance under the light of the lights. "This is a very beautiful girl. Her facial features are beautiful and refined, her skin is as fair as snow, her muscles are well proportioned and elastic, her almond eyes are as clear as autumn water, her nose is straight, her cherry-like thin lips are charmingly shiny, her cheeks are rosy, and her cut pupils are bright and bright. People reveal a green and pure atmosphere. But this is just the appearance." Qin Mu knows that although Jin Kankan is young, she has already matured in her heart, and from her hosting the auction and her conversation with other disciples just now, it can be seen that she is an extremely intelligent, well-rounded person. "Girl. Miss Jin, I don't need to repeat what I just said, right?" Listening to the slightly joking voice in his ear, Jin Kankan felt his head buzzing, and his face instantly turned red with embarrassment. She knew what he meant by what he just said, but she never expected that he would actually make such a request. Isn't he not interested in himself? Was it all just an act? But. Jin Kankan's face changed slightly, and his pretty pink and soft face turned red. "What? Could it be that you don't agree?" Qin Mu shook his head and sighed, "For you, I would rather not give up those 90 million spiritual crystals, but what I got in exchange is this situation. You really make me sad." "Young master." Jin Kankan softened up after what he said, but the last bit of vigilance in her heart made her refuse cruelly, because the other party's change was too fast. Why did he suddenly confess his love? She bit her lip and said, I can't promise you." "Oh," Qin Mu chuckled and looked at her thoughtfully, "why? Don't you like me?" "Mr. Young Master, you misunderstood. You are so handsome, how could I not like you?" Jin Kankan defended eagerly, but his tone was obviously lacking confidence and even a little panicked. "In that case, why don't you agree to my request?" Qin Mu raised his eyebrows. "I have always been clear about grudges. Once I have made a decision, I will not break my promise." "But." Jin Kankan bit her red lips, lowered her eyebrows, and kept twisting her sleeves and said, "Young master, you don't know something. Our sect has strict rules and prohibits disciples from having affairs with people from other forces, otherwise they will be punished. I will be punished by the section as a disciple of the Jingguang sect. I must not violate the sect's rules." Her voice became quieter, and finally turned into a mosquito. "It's okay, We just don't let others know. Qin Mu shrugged his shoulders and said casually, as long as you cooperate well, it will not affect our relationship, and you will not be punished. But, Jin Kankan was stiffened by his gaze, the tips of her ears were red, and her legs were shaking involuntarily. There's nothing more to worry about. Qin Mu took 2 steps closer, stretched out his slender right hand to hold Jin Kankan's chin, and forced her to look directly at him. Jin Kankan stared at the handsome face so close, forgetting to resist for a moment. By the time I reacted, it was already too late. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 475. Moonlight poured on the roof, illuminating the dark night sky. The room was eerily quiet. Jin Kankan's eyes widened, staring at the handsome face so close in horror, and his brain almost stopped functioning. She was kissed just now. This. Jin Kankan swallowed nervously, his heart beating wildly, and his face was frighteningly hot. Jin Kankan was so ashamed that she wanted to cry. She had never held hands with any man in her life, let alone kissed him. Now she was forced to kiss by the young master, and he still kissed her forcefully. Jin Kankan swallowed, tried hard to calm her disordered breathing, and tried to break away from the hand that was restraining her, but Qin Mu's strength was very strong, and no matter how hard she tried, she could not struggle away. Let go. She struggled to say 2 words, and asked nervously, Sir, what are you doing? At this time, Qin Mu was only 1 centimeter away from her, and his warm breath hit her face, carrying a faint fragrance, which made her feel ashamed and stimulated. Her body was tense, and her heart was beating fast, as if it was about to pop out of her chest at any time. Of course you do what you need to do. Qin Mu squinted his eyes and spoke slowly. He raised his left hand and touched her white and delicate face. His thumb lightly traced it, leaving a shallow ripple. Jin Kankan was so frightened that his whole body stiffened and his body became even tighter. Mister. Sensing her fear and trembling, Qin Mu chuckled softly, with a hint of evil in his deep voice, I'm so tolerant and generous, aren't you going to repay me? Ah, Jin Kankan was startled. Before he had time to think about it, he suddenly felt a chill all over his body. Half of the tulle skirt he was wearing had slipped down, revealing his snow-white skin. She suddenly gasped and quickly stretched out her jade hands to cover her beauty. Sir, she said tremblingly, her face as pale as paper. Don't move. Qin Mu pressed Jin Kankan's hands and fixed her jade hands above her head. His expression was serious and focused, and his dark eyes seemed to be burning with burning flames, carrying a soul-stirring temptation. Jin Kankan looked at the man close at hand, his face was as red as blood, tender and delicate, and his heartbeat was getting faster and faster. Like a deer bumping into each other, she had never felt so nervous and panicked. She had never seen a man as good-looking as him in her whole life, but the dangerous aura was so strong that she instinctively felt scared. His eyes were clear, bright, deep, and charming, and even the stars reflected in his pupils seemed to be dazzling than other stars. Jin Kankan suddenly realized something, and his cheeks were as hot as fire. So is this the legendary meaning of love? Sir! Jin Kankan couldn't help shouting. She ignored the cluttered thoughts in her mind and stared intently at the man's handsome face. Just then, Qin Mu suddenly let go of her wrist. Jin Kankan was caught off guard and fell onto the bed. She stared blankly at Qin Mu, who suddenly became cold and distant, at a loss. Young master. Qin Mu stared at her condescendingly, his eyes narrowed slightly. Do you like me? Hearing this, Jin Kankan was stunned for a moment, then his cheeks instantly turned red, and even the roots of his ears were dyed pink. I. Jin Kankan was at a loss, his head was in a mess and he couldn't say a word. Does she like him? Probably not. But if you don't like him, Why do you have such strange feelings for him? Why do you feel shy and nervous? Seeing that Jin Kankan was hesitating and still unable to say a complete sentence, Qin Mu smiled gently and said in a lazy tone, "Don't admit it? Then why are you blushing?" I'm not blushing," Jin Kankan retorted with a blushing face. Qin Mu smiled slightly, pointed at the snow-white skin on her shoulders, and said softly, "Your pattern is quite good, it looks very nice." Huh? What, pattern? Hearing the words very good looking, Jin Kankan subconsciously glanced towards his shoulders. But she saw a strange pink pattern printed on her shoulder at some point. It was very eye-catching, like cherry blossoms blowing in the wind, and it gave her goosebumps all over her body. She had never seen this pattern before. What is this? Jin Kankan was shocked. This is a good thing. Qin Mu curled up with an extremely evil smile, placed his right palm on Jin Kankan's shoulder, and hugged her into his arms. Jin Kankan's eyes widened, filled with doubts and confusion. Nice one? What good stuff? Qin Mu lowered his head to her neck and whispered in her ear, "You will understand soon." His speech was slow and full of temptation and teasing. Qin Mu felt like he was a bewitching male succubus who was leading people into depravity step by step. It's so evil. Jin Kankan's heart was beating unsatisfactorily, and an intoxicating blush appeared on her face. She felt Qin Mu's warm and solid embrace, which seemed to give her an inexplicable sense of security. Sir. Jin Kankan only felt that the surrounding scenery was spinning, and the whole world seemed to be spinning. She wanted to grab something, but she couldn't grab anything, and her heartbeat became faster and faster, almost out of control. She could only close her eyes and let herself fall into endless darkness. And the other side. In the vast desert, Xuanhuan Kui led a dozen saints and elders to pursue the traces left by the men in black. These bastards are so deceptive. How dare they target our Golden Light sect? They must be eradicated. Xuanhuan Kui clenched his fists and cursed angrily. Many saints and elders of the Jin family were also filled with indignation and wished to find those villains immediately. Although their Golden Light sect does not have the most resounding reputation in the Piao domain, their strength is also one of the best. Even the major sects in the Daoxuan domain do not dare to provoke them easily. Unexpectedly, I was robbed today, and it was at the foot of the mountain gate of their Golden Light section. It was a great shame and humiliation. Deputy leader, tell me, what is the origin of those men in black? What hatred do they have against our Golden Light sect? Asked a saint elder. The elder thought carefully during the pursuit. Their Golden Light sect had not provoked any powerful enemy for thousands of years, let alone a powerful force with more than a dozen saints. He thought for a long time, but he didn't expect which force with more than a dozen saints was targeting their Golden Light sect. A hint of sinisterness flashed across Xuanhuan Kui's eyebrows. No matter who they are, if they dare to offend my teachings, they will be punished. This account must be settled with them. Yes. No matter who they are, they must give our Golden Light sect an explanation, the other elders agreed, all of them gritting their teeth and filled with hatred. How could they, the dignified Jingguang sect, allow someone to step on their heads and run wild? Deputy leader, the movement trajectories of those bandits are very strange. They seem to have been planned in advance. I'm afraid it will be difficult for us to catch them. Then continue to pursue clues along the way. As long as they are still in the misty realm, we must find them. Xuanhuan Kui waved and led everyone to quickly catch up. A strong gust of wind blew in front of her, blowing away the strands of hair on her golden forehead and blocking her sight. When the wind stopped, she opened her eyes suddenly and saw a strange and desolate land, with long yellow sand, empty and lonely, and no green plants at all. Where is this? Am I not in the sect? Why are you here suddenly? Jin Kankan rubbed his sleepy eyes, stood up and looked around, but still couldn't find a familiar figure. Where is this? It seems like it has never been here. She murmured to herself, trying to find her memory and how she got here. She clearly remembered that she was discussing things with the young master in the Golden Light sect, and then the young master took her into his arms, and then a picture flooded into Jin Cancan's mind, and a pretty face turned red instantly. She covered her hot and red cheeks with her hands. The picture gradually blurred and finally disappeared. Jin Cancan's cheeks were flushed, and he subconsciously lowered his head and touched his lips, feeling a sweet feeling spread throughout his body. But why does she appear here? And although this place is a desert, the spiritual energy is extremely abundant, even more abundant than the place where their Golden Light sect's spiritual energy is the strongest. What a strange place. Jin Cancan frowned slightly, puzzled. Pattern, yes, there is another pattern. As if Jin Cancan suddenly remembered something again, he stretched out his hand and touched his left shoulder, and a coquettish pattern mark came into view. Her sluggish expression suddenly returned to normal, and a strange feeling rose in her heart. This pattern is. Jin Cancan raised his hand and touched his left shoulder. The pattern is very delicate and beautiful, every inch is full of temptation, lifelike, as if it has come alive. It is shaped like a peach blossom, bright and colorful, with overlapping petals, each containing infinite beauty and temptation. Jin Cancan stared at the pattern on his shoulder, and for some reason, he suddenly felt an intimate attraction. It seems that this pattern should belong to her, and she should also have such a pattern. It's strange, what exactly is this pattern? Jin Cancan stared at the pattern and fell into deep thought. After a long time, she sighed, forget it, I can't figure it out even if I try hard enough. She shook her head, stood up and walked into the desert, raising her head and looking around. I could see the scorching sun above my head, and the scorching sunshine penetrated the clouds and shone down. The scorching temperature caused beads of sweat to flow from the golden forehead, and dropped into the dust, causing small water splashes to bloom. She took a look around and found that there were no trees in the desert, but in the distance, there were rolling and majestic mountains, majestic and majestic, like a giant dragon entrenched. Maybe, there will be answers there. The golden steps flew towards the towering mountains in the distance. Soon after, her figure disappeared into the towering mountain peaks in the distance, completely integrated into the earth, leaving no trace left. When she came to the center of the towering mountains, her expression changed. Because in her field of vision, there was a huge palace towering into the clouds, standing deep in the majestic and steep mountains, exuding vast majesty and domineering, which looked extremely dazzling under the sunlight. Jin Cancan's eyes widened in surprise, her mouth opened into an O shape, full of shock. Is this the immortal palace? Jin Cancan couldn't help swallowing her saliva, staring at the huge palace in the distance. She had never heard of such a magnificent building in the world. Even in the Daoxuan realm, where resources were the richest and there were the most saints, she had never seen such a magnificent palace complex. In her cognition, any city or river was far inferior to the huge palace complex in front of her. It felt as if she was not facing a city inhabited by humans, but a huge fairyland created by immortals. Jin Cancan's breathing became rapid. She stepped on the void and slowly flew towards the palace complex in front of her. The closer she was, the more clearly she could feel the pressure, as if the whole person was suppressed and couldn't even move. It was so shocking. It was so suffocating. Jin Cancan's heart beat fast, and a cloud of mist involuntarily welled up in her eyes, and tears rolled around. Finally, she approached the palace complex, paused in mid-air, and looked down at this towering palace complex, her eyes obsessed, forgetting everything. This towering palace complex occupied all her attention, and she could no longer look away. This palace is definitely not an ordinary thing, it must be a treasure left by a certain immortal. Jin Cancan had such an idea in her mind, and she was very excited. I don't know how long it took before Jin Cancan slowly retracted her gaze and fell down again. She held her breath and slowly landed on the platform in front of the palace, looking up and gazing at the huge stone tablet with exquisite carvings. Lingxiao Palace. The four large characters shining with bright stars were written in a dragon-like and fierce manner, as if they were magical, fascinating and soul-stirring, making people want to get close and want to worship. Jin Kankan couldn't help but take a breath, feeling creepy. These four words gave her a strong sense of crisis, as if she would be crushed to pieces in the next moment. Lingxiao Palace? Is this the place where the Emperor of Heaven practices? She couldn't help but take 2 steps forward and carefully observe the 4 big words. I saw that the top of Lingxiao Palace was covered with complicated and obscure runes, densely packed, interweaving a complete pattern. In the pattern, there was a 9-clawed dragon that was 10,000 feet long and roared with its head raised, and the roar spread in all directions. This dragon was lifelike, like a living creature, looming under the cover of golden glow, and it would take off at any time, travel through the universe, and fly with wings spread. Jin Kankan was dazzled and almost couldn't take his eyes off. He held his chin with both hands and murmured, "Oh my God." Such a scene was too horrifying and unheard of. Jin Kankan couldn't hold on any longer, and knelt on the ground with a plop, crawled in front of the stone tablet, and bowed devoutly. At this moment, a powerful divine thought swept over, and Jin Kankan trembled all over. She stood stiffly in place, unable to move at all. Cold sweat flowed down her back, and her back was cold, as if she had fallen into the netherworld. "Who are you?" a pleasant female voice sounded, mixed with some doubts and questions. Jin Kankan opened her eyes with difficulty, and saw a girl in white floating above her head, looking down at her from above. The girl's skin was whiter than snow, her face was stunning, and she was dancing in a white dress, ethereal and hazy, like a banished fairy. Her facial features were delicate and perfect, with a beautiful nose and cherry lips, and her hair was like a waterfall, black and smooth, crystal like jade, and glowing with a faint fluorescence, like the Milky Way hanging in the sky, beautiful and magnificent. Jin Kankan stared at the girl in front of her blankly, unable to speak. The aura of the girl in front of him was too terrifying, like a god descending to the earth, looking down on all living beings in the world, as if she was the only fairy in the world. Is she the fairy living in this fairy palace? Jin Kankan swallowed her saliva, her heart beat wildly, and she was so nervous that she almost couldn't breathe. However, Jin Kankan still mustered up the courage to say, "Hello, hello, my name is Jin Kankan." "Oh, it's you." The girl blinked, and a few rays of light flashed in her eyes. Jin Kankan frowned slightly. "This fairy seems to know me. How is this possible?" Just when Jin Kankan was confused, she was suddenly stunned, and more than a dozen black figures appeared in the depths of her eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Bulletin Leng. Chapter 476. Jin Kankan blinked and blinked again. After confirming that she was not mistaken, her body stiffened instantly, her face changed drastically, and her pupils shrank sharply. Why do these people look so familiar? Jin Kankan's heart was beating wildly, and her eyes were full of fear and anger. She remembered, these men in black were the ones who had just robbed the auction. How could they suddenly appear here? Jin Kankan felt her head roaring and exploding, her whole heart was trembling, and her heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Although she hated these people very much, if it weren't for them, how could she have messed up her first auction and lost the young master's 90 million spirit crystals? But when she saw these men in black suddenly appearing here, she still couldn't help panicking, feeling extremely bad, and even had the urge to run away. You know, these men in black are all saints. She is just a cultivator in the void realm, how could she resist these people? Let alone fighting, I'm afraid these people would crush her to death with just a little finger. No. Jin Cancan's lips trembled, her eyes showed deep despair and fear, crystal tears kept rolling in her eyes, she was about to cry, and her pitiful appearance was pitiful. She was really scared, after all, she had witnessed the brutality of these people with her own eyes. This group of people is a demon. Huh. The girl looked at Jin Cancan in surprise, and her tone was a little strange. You cried. Jin Cancan was even more scared after hearing this, her face turned pale, and she lowered her head and dared not say a word. Don't be afraid, since you can appear here, it means we are all sisters. The girl shook her head gently, her voice as clear as a bell. Jin Cancan's heart was pounding, she clenched her teeth, tried to suppress the fear and sadness in her heart, raised her head, and looked at the girl timidly. Sisters. What does this sentence mean? She and this fairy had never met before and had no intersection at all. Why did this fairy call her sister? What was going on? At this moment, something even more shocking to Jin Cancan happened. The dozen or so black-clothed men who had committed many evil deeds and were cruel and tyrannical in her impression slowly took off their black robes, revealing the charming and colorful postures of fairies. Each fairy was peerless, with amazing beauty and noble aura, as unattainable as a goddess, making people in awe and worship. These fairies were either charming and charming, still charming, gentle and virtuous, pure and unworldly, and all kinds of them exuded a misty and extraordinary aura, like a dream. They had beautiful faces, hot and enchanting bodies, and wore all kinds of clothes. Each of them had a unique style and exuded a mysterious and seductive charm, as if they were fairies walking out of a scroll, which was pleasing to the eye. This. Jin Cancan was stunned, his eyes widened, and his face was full of astonishment. These women. Aren't they the ones who just snatched his auction items? How come they suddenly turned into a group of fairies? Some of them were even more beautiful and beautiful, making Jin Cancan feel ashamed. The more Jin Cancan looked, the weirder she felt. A bold guess emerged in her mind. Could it be that those people in black were actually these fairies in disguise? At this time, more than a dozen fairies came and surrounded Jin Cancan. It seems that the master has almost dealt with the Jingguang sect, right? One of the fairies said with a smile, her eyes were rippling, and she was charming. It is an honor for the Jingguang sect to be treated like this by the master. Another fairy smiled and said, she has a stunning face, white and delicate skin, delicate and graceful figure, and a beautiful figure, giving people a sense of surprise. Isn't this Jin Cancan from the Jingguang sect? He, it seems that Jin Cancan has been subdued. The master is really powerful. The Jingguang sect is nothing. It is only worthy of carrying shoes for the master. If the master didn't want to be high profile, he would have destroyed it long ago. Several of the fairies chattered non-stop, with a hint of pride and admiration in their tone. Obviously, they were full of trust and admiration for the man who was so powerful and powerful in their mouths. The other fairies heard the words and smiled secretly, with cunning in their beautiful eyes. You. Jin Cancan was completely confused, her mind was buzzing, and she stood there, unable to react for a while. At this moment, she finally understood. It turned out that they were not demons, but sisters. Jin Cancan's eyes were wide open, and a huge wave of waves was set off in her heart. It was completely unbelievable. What rhythm is this? Jin Cancan was completely confused, her mind was blank, and her heart was filled with great shock and doubt. Why did these fairies disguise themselves as men in black and rob her auction items? They also called her sisters, what was their purpose? Could it be? But Jin Cancan's mind was filled with various question marks. Who are you? Jin Cancan was in doubt, looking at the women warily, and kept backing away. She couldn't see through these people at all, and couldn't even judge their specific strength. In short, they were very strong. Especially the girl on the far left, who gave her the heaviest sense of oppression, as if she were as deep and vast as an ocean, difficult to fathom, making her heart palpitate, her whole body cold to the bone, as if she was in a 1,000-foot ice cave, freezing cold. The same was true for the other fairies, each one stronger than the other, with different temperaments, but equally powerful and terrifying, as if they could destroy the world. Hee hee, little beauty, have you forgotten us? One of them was petite, wearing a purple dress, with delicate features, eyebrows curved like willow leaves, black and smooth hair tilted and draped over her shoulders, and the girl with an ethereal temperament covered her mouth and laughed softly. Who are you? Jin Cancan's face was solemn, and her heart was full of worry. Ha ha ha, little fry, just surrender. Don't struggle in vain, kneel down quickly, and offer your treasures with both hands, I may spare your lives. At this time, a woman in red suddenly made a gloomy, cold, and playful voice. Jin Cancan's whole body froze. She was so familiar with this voice. At the auction, a man in black made such a voice. Do you remember it now, little sister? The woman in red blinked her beautiful eyes and laughed. It's you. You dare to break into the Golden Light sect? Jin Cancan's pretty face changed slightly, glaring at the woman in red, gritting her teeth. Congratulations, little sister, you got the answer right. I'll reward you with a small flower. The woman in red laughed and threw a flower at random, flying straight to Jin Cancan. The rose was extremely fast and instantly shot into Jin Cancan's arms, catching her off guard. Jin Cancan looked down at the flower in her hand, and her face instantly became ugly. This is not a small flower, but something she is going to auction at the auction. It is a spiritual plant called blood magnolia, a rare treasure that can enhance physical fitness. It is priceless and difficult to buy even if you have money. It is said that it was a chance encounter of an elder of the Jingguang sect, and it took several years to cultivate it successfully. Although this flower is of no use to the Jingguang sect, it is very important to those casual cultivators, enough to change their fate. At this time, the blood orchid is blooming, crystal clear, bright and fragrant, making people salivate. Jin Cancan felt a pain in her flesh. Originally, this flower could sell a lot of spirit crystals, but now it has fallen to this point. The woman in red smiled and said, Tisk tisk, the Jingguang sect is worthy of being the top sect in the Misty domain, and its foundation is quite strong. These things are all good things. Jin Cancan's pretty face became more gloomy when she heard this. At this moment, she suddenly remembered something, and raised her head quickly, regardless of her inner worry and fear, and pressed. Can you give me back the storage rings you snatched from me? This is very important to me, please. Although she didn't know whether these fairies were enemies or friends, and she knew that her situation was very critical, Jin Cancan couldn't help but make this request. It's not that she wanted to save trouble for the Jingguang sect, but she really wanted to help the young master find the 90 million spirit crystals. Hee hee hee. Hearing Jin Cancan's plea, the girls couldn't help but giggle, as if they were amused. Jin Cancan frowned, and a trace of anger surged in her heart, but facing so many fairies, she didn't dare to explode. I can only bite the bullet and say, please give me back my things, okay? The woman in red smiled and said, no, those things are our spoils of war, of course they belong to us. Jin Cancan took 2 quick breaths, tried to calm down, tried to stay calm, and slowly said, then what do you want? The woman in red smiled, hee hee. Before she finished speaking, a strong and extremely charming aura suddenly attacked, covering the whole room, making people involuntarily intoxicated and unable to extricate themselves. In an instant, Jin Cancan felt her whole body soft, and the scene in front of her became trance. You. Jin Cancan's pupils suddenly shrank, and a strong sense of danger rose in her heart. She had no power to resist at all, her whole body was weak, her soul was trembling, and her spiritual power was scattered. She just felt like she was trapped in a quagmire, extremely tired. Jin Kankan turned her head with difficulty, and saw a charming and beautiful face in front of her. She was wearing a pink logo shirt, with smooth and tender skin, delicate and flawless face, beautiful eyes shining like stars, and a cherry mouth that was extremely tempting. At this time, the woman in red suddenly stretched out her white and tender little hand, pinched Jin Kankan's neck, pulled her close to her, whispered a breath of hot air in her ear, and said seductively, "How about staying to play with the sisters?" Jin Kankan felt dizzy, numb, and weak all over, and her consciousness gradually blurred. Pa! The next second, a loud slap broke the charming atmosphere in the room. Ah! Jin Kankan screamed, covering her back and staring at the other person angrily. "You, what are you doing?" Jin Kankan was ashamed and angry, her pretty face was red, her chest was heaving violently, she was furious, and she was shaking with anger. You are bullying me." Jin Kankan was so angry that she almost cried. She felt very wronged. She had never been treated like this before. A group of strange women came to her house to rob her and spanked her. It was too much. She was the direct disciple of the vice leader of the Jingguang sect after all. She had never been wronged like this before. The more Jin Kankan thought about it, the more she felt wronged. Tears could not stop rolling down her eyes. Okay, don't tease her. Since the master has allowed her to appear in the world of the demon refining pot, it means that she has been recognized. We will have to get along with each other in the future. A fairy smiled lightly, her voice numb to the bone, as if an electric current passed through the body, making her feel comfortable all over. Yes, sisters, we will have to get along with each other in the future. Don't scare her, another fairy began to persuade. That's right, we will all be family in the future. We must help each other and help the master solve problems together, another fairy echoed. Master? Who is the master? Hearing their words, Jin Kankan was stunned again and confused. She vaguely sensed something. These fairies, may be the servants of this fairy palace, and the master they are talking about, is the controller of this fairy palace. His. After thinking through all this, Jin Kankan was shocked again. She couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. She didn't even bother to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. She just felt a tremor in her heart. What kind of existence is the master they are talking about? How can he have a group of peerless beauties as slaves? It's incredible. No wonder they can be so reckless and don't take the Jingguang sect seriously at all. This is because they have something to rely on. Welcome home. At this time, another girl in a red skirt smiled and stretched out her hand to Jin Kankan, with a gentle smile on her face. Well. Jin Kankan nodded dully, mechanically holding her delicate hand, with a dull expression. Okay, let's take her down to rest first. She just consumed a lot of physical and spiritual energy, and she needs to replenish it, another fairy spoke. Hearing this, the girl in the red skirt immediately took Jin Kankan to the fairy palace. Jin Kankan followed them away with a face full of doubts and vigilance. A moment later, they were brought into a gorgeous and luxurious palace. Hee, little sister, don't you always want to know who the master is? You will see him soon. The red-dressed woman smiled sweetly, her beautiful eyes were charming and enchanting. What? Your master wants to see me? Jin Kankan's body trembled, a trace of panic appeared on her pretty face, her heartbeat accelerated instantly, she became nervous and uneasy, and she thought it was not good. Yes, the red-dressed woman smiled sweetly and said softly, the master will appear soon. Jin Kankan looked around, feeling extremely uneasy, but she had no idea what to do. This fairy palace is not an ordinary place. The space is solid and unbreakable. With her mere cave empty cultivation, she can't escape at all. Tap tap tap. At this time, a sound of footsteps sounded. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 477. Jin Kankan looked in the direction of the voice. A young man in a purple gold robe walked slowly towards her. He had handsome features, a majestic demeanor, extraordinary heroic spirit, and a faint smile on his lips. The man had a perfect figure, which could be called the golden ratio. His eyes were extremely deep, containing a mysterious charm, like the vast starry sky, deep and far-reaching. The man's temperament gave people a sense of ethereal, noble, and cold arrogance, as if the emperor from the sky had descended. This man. After seeing the man's face clearly, Jin Kankan was stunned, and the whole person was stunned as if struck by lightning, motionless. How could this man look so much like the young master? Your master, should it be him? Jin Kankan looked at the man and trembled, with a strong tone of disbelief. Yes. Your master is our master. He is a rare and extraordinary man in the ages. He is not only handsome and unparalleled, but also powerful, the woman in red said with a face full of infatuation. The other girls also had faces full of admiration, their eyes sparkling with strange colors. Jin Kankan's delicate body trembled violently, her pretty face turned pale, and her eyes flashed with fear and terror. At this moment, she finally understood everything. It turned out that the young master had been deceiving her all along. His target from the beginning to the end was the Jingguang section. He was the one who commanded these fairies to rob the Jingguang sex auction. He was the black hand hidden in the dark. He did not lose 90 million spirit crystals at all. The scene at the auction was all directed and acted by him. The whole Jingguang sect was played by him. When she thought of this, Jin Kankan felt remorseful. She actually thought that he was doing it for her and gave up holding the Jingguang sect accountable. It turned out to be a scam, and she was foolishly deceived. Master, this girl is awake at this time, the woman in red pointed at Jin Kankan and said, we have told her about it. Well, I know. The man nodded lightly, his eyes fell on Jin Kankan, his voice was extremely indifferent, without any emotional fluctuations, as if he was looking at an ordinary thing, not worth his effort. Who are you? Jin Kankan swallowed hard, her heart contracted violently, and her voice trembled a little. She stared at the man in front of her, her beautiful eyes were filled with fear and anger. She couldn't figure out why the other party did this. Who am I? Guess. The man smiled lightly and looked at Jin Kankan jokingly. What do you want to do? Jin Kankan's mouth shrank, and she said aggrievedly and angrily, how did my Jingguang sect let you down? Do you want to treat us like this? Do you want to destroy our Jingguang sect? Jin Kankan became more and more excited, and her pretty face became a little distorted and hideous because of anger. She didn't understand why the Jingguang sect would get into trouble with such a terrifying existence. Although Jin Kankan's talent was average, she was still the eldest sister of the Jingguang sect and had extraordinary experience, so she quickly calmed down. But her pretty face was still pale, her eyes were slightly moist, and her heart was full of turbulent waves. What kind of terrifying existence was he, who could actually live in such a fairy palace and subdue so many beautiful maids? Jin Kankan's heart twitched fiercely, and a chill enveloped her whole body. Destroy the Jingguang sect? You misunderstood, your Jingguang sect is not worthy of me to do it. The man shook his head and denied. Then what are you doing for? Jin Kankan gritted her teeth and stared at the man with her eyes, not wanting to miss any details. Why should I tell you? The man asked back, with a smile on his lips, and continued, if I tell you, wouldn't it be too boring? Jin Kankan was speechless, her chest rose and fell rapidly, and her breathing was a little disordered. She found that the man in front of her was not only mysterious and powerful, but also shameless. He was like a high-ranking immortal. His favorite thing to do was to fool the world and watch the world be horrified and in pain. You bastard, Jin Kankan gritted his teeth and angrily cursed, you are simply a devil. Qin Mu smiled, actually, it doesn't matter if I tell you. The Golden Light Sect and you are just a chess piece in my hand. It's really thanks to you that I can enter here so smoothly. Chess piece. Suddenly, a light flashed through Jin Kankan's mind. It seemed that she thought of something and said in horror, You deliberately approached me? The purpose is just to enter the Golden Light Sect. Jin Kankan asked in a trembling voice, staring at Qin Mu with her beautiful eyes. Although her voice was calm, it was difficult to hide the panic and anxiety in it. If she hadn't heard it with her own ears, she would never have believed that she had fallen into the clutches of the devil and became a tool in the hands of others, and she was still excited and intoxicated. He, I guess so. Qin Mu smiled faintly, not minding to lay the matter bare. Boom. Instantly, Jin Kankan's mind exploded, her heart fell into an icy valley, she felt cold, her whole body was chilled to the bone, her fists clenched, her nails pierced into her flesh, blood splattered. She actually became a tool in the hands of others, at their mercy, being used by others. Jin Kankan's delicate body trembled violently, her eyes were red, and 2 lines of tears slid down her delicate and flawless oval cheeks. Heart, broken into pieces. She finally moved her heart, but the result was so cruel. You bastard, why did you lie to me, why? Jin Kankan cried heartbreakingly, her heart was broken, she was heartbroken, and she felt extremely wronged. She hated herself for being blind and not seeing the other person's true identity. In order to help the other person, she even sacrificed herself, but in return she was deceived. How could she be willing to accept this? Jin Kankan felt a burst of sadness in her heart, sneered at herself, and tears slid down her cheeks. I didn't expect that I, Jin Kankan, would become a pawn today. At this moment, Jin Kankan completely collapsed. Ha ha ha, little sister, don't cry, be obedient, and I will take you to practice together later. The woman in red smiled charmingly and gently stroked Jin Kankan's pink cheek. But Jin Kankan jumped away like a frightened rabbit, looking at the woman in red with vigilant eyes. I don't need it, she refused stubbornly. Then she took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. She wiped her tears, looked up at Qin Mu, and asked stubbornly, what is your purpose? If you want to destroy the Golden Light Sect, it should not be difficult to do it with your current strength, right? Why do you have to go through so much trouble? Hearing this, the red-clothed woman frowned slightly and looked at Qin Mu in confusion, obviously not understanding what he was planning. I do have the ability to destroy the entire Golden Light Sect, but I don't want to destroy the entire Golden Light Sect, but I want to control it. Qin Mu walked slowly and smiled faintly. Control, Jin Kankan was stunned for a moment and didn't react for a while. She thought that the control Qin Mu said was to destroy the Golden Light Sect. Don't worry, I don't plan to destroy the Golden Light Sect, and I will give you a fortune to help you become the real top force of the human race. Qin Mu smiled, and a deep flash in the depths of his eyes. The real top force, Jin Kankan frowned a little deeper, not knowing what Qin Mu was up to. Qin Mu smiled but said nothing. If you want to kill me, just say it. No need to beat around the bush. Is it fun to play tricks on me? Jin Kankan glared at the man and shouted, more certain in her heart that the man was deliberately teasing her. Do you think I need to lie to you? Are you qualified to be deceived by me? Qin Mu glanced at Jin Kankan lightly and said lightly, if I wanted to kill you, you would have died long ago. Hearing this, Jin Kankan was stunned. Yes, if the other party wanted to kill her, she would have died long ago. How could she live until now, and even have the opportunity to step into this fairy palace? She sighed in her heart, What the other party said was not unreasonable. With her cultivation, she was not qualified to attract his attention at all, and she was just an ant-like existence. If he wanted to take her life, I'm afraid she wouldn't even have a chance to struggle. Jin Can, you should thank me. Qin Mu's voice was like a heavenly sound, spreading throughout the hall. Thank you. Why should I thank you? You devil, I will fight you. Jin Can gritted her teeth and rushed forward. She was really furious. She was the one who was deceived, and he took all the benefits, but he still asked her to thank him. How could he bully people like this? Jin Can stretched her jade hand back and grabbed the long sword hanging behind her. Clang. Then, with a clang, the sword in Jin Can's hand broke away from the scabbard, flew into the air, and floated beside her, emitting a dazzling light. This long sword is called Xuanhuan, which was given by her master. It is of extremely high grade and is a spiritual weapon with amazing power. It has killed many fierce beasts and alien species. Its sharpness is more than 100 times that of ordinary spiritual weapons. Shua. Qin Mu raised his head slightly, glanced at the moon-chopping sword in Jin Can's hand, and then his eyes fell on her, and he smiled meaningfully. Are you sure you want to attack me? Jin Can's pretty face flushed, and she said angrily, Devil, even if I die today, I will drag you to be buried with me. Let's be companions on the road to the underworld. While speaking, Jin Can's mana continued to flow out and infuse into the moon-chopping sword. Suddenly, the bright light became more and more dazzling. Indistinctly, a sword shadow could be seen wandering on the sword, emitting a sharp and murderous wave. The next moment, Jin Can waved the moon-chopping sword and chopped straight at Qin Mu. Shua. The sword light shot out, like a silk thread, instantly piercing the void and attacking Qin Mu, and the terrifying sword intent raged in all directions. Qin Mu showed a playful look on his face, shook his head, and then his mind moved. The next moment, Jin Can's delicate body froze, and then she slid and knelt straight in front of Qin Mu. Plop, with a sound, Jin Can knelt heavily on the ground, her face flushed and humiliated. She never thought that she would kneel at Qin Mu's feet without any warning just after she sacrificed the moon-slashing sword. And in such a humiliating posture. Jin Can was about to struggle, but suddenly felt a numbness and heat in her shoulder, as if something spread along her arm to all parts of her body. In an instant, her body collapsed to the ground. Her hands could no longer hold the moon-slashing sword, and the moon-slashing sword slipped out of her hands and fell to the ground with a bang. The next moment, the fear in Jin Can's eyes gradually faded, replaced by a little peach color. The eyes were full of admiration and love. Qin Mu stood there with his hands behind his back, smiling calmly. His handsome face was like a fallen immortal. At this moment, Qin Mu was straight and upright, his temperament was ethereal, as if he had merged with the world, making Jin Can involuntarily indulge in him. Master! Jin Can stared at Qin Mu infatuatedly, muttering. The next moment, Jin Can suddenly hugged Qin Mu's thighs, rested her head on his knees, and her beautiful eyes were flooded with pink love. Qin Mu touched her head, as if he was stroking a pet, and whispered, Don't worry, you will soon be the only controller of the Golden Light section. Well. Jin Can nodded obediently, staring at Qin Mu with a soft look. Qin Mu smiled slightly, and then took Jin Can out of the demon refining pot. At this time, the sky outside was already getting light. Qin Mu looked up at the direction of the Jingguang Sect's mountain gate and whispered to himself, they should be back soon. He was now waiting for Xuanhuan Kui and others who were still looking for the black-clothed man outside. Now, Qin Mu could completely control the Jingguang sect without them. During the time when Jin Can was unconscious, Qin Mu had almost no effort to quietly subdue all the remaining saints of the Jingguang sect without alarming anyone. Because Xuanhuan Kui almost called out all the young and powerful saint elders of the Jingguang sect, The Jingguang sect was actually very empty at this time, with only some saint ancestors who were old and had few lifespans. With Qin Mu's current strength, it would be easy to deal with them secretly. Of course, this emptiness is relative to Qin Mu. Outside, the Jingguang sect still has a strong foundation. In addition to these old saints, there are thousands of young people. Although their strength is far inferior to those old guys, they are all the hope of the future and will definitely become the pillars of the Jingguang sect in the future. Qin Mu first used coercion, inducement, pressure, promises of large sums of money, or personal charm to subdue them all, and then the Jingguang sect was almost in his pocket. As for those who really couldn't be recovered, Qin Mu would not do anything to them, but would plant a demon mark on them. So far, as long as he subdued the elders who followed Xuanhuan Kui out, Qin Mu would almost completely control the entire Jingguang sect. Qin Mu didn't wait too long. Only 2 days later, Xuanhuan Kui and others finally returned to the Jingguang sect. Deputy leader, we have searched almost the entire desert this time, but we still haven't found those black-clothed men. What should we do? Yes, deputy leader, have they left Piao Miao domain? I have consumed too much energy these days. I feel like my lifespan has shortened. A group of elders asked with a frown. These saints have searched a total area of about 18 million kilometers in the past 2 days. It can be said that they have checked every grain of sand, but still have not gained anything. Xuanhuan Kui frowned, and the muscles at the corners of his eyes twitched, looking a little irritated. The loss this time was too great, and Jingguang Jiao's dignity was trampled on, which made Xuanhuan Kui unbearable. Especially the dozen or so saint-level black-clothed men, who made him sleep and eat uneasy. If he couldn't find their whereabouts, he didn't even dare to close his eyes when he slept. Xuanhuan Kui sighed and said hatefully, "Go back first. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid." Author, Len Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 478. Xuanhuan Bao knew that it was meaningless to continue the blind pursuit, so he could only retreat temporarily. The Jingguang sect could not be without these saints for a long time, especially during the absence of the leader. Someone was needed to take charge, otherwise it would be easy for others to take advantage of the situation. Moreover, the situation in the Jingguang sect was already chaotic enough, and many disciples had begun to doubt the Wanyang city auction. If people's hearts were not stabilized in time, I'm afraid the entire Jingguang sect would be in chaos. Alas! A group of saint elders sighed, and then followed Xuanhuan Kui back to the Jingguang sect. Ding-ling-ling. Just as they were about to enter the sect, the communication jade card on Xuanhuan Kui's waist sounded a message. Hearing this voice, Xuanhuan Kui's face suddenly changed a little, and his eyes were gloomy. After a moment, he took a deep breath and took off the jade pendant from his waist. Shua shua shua. Golden light shone, and messages came one after another, all reporting the recent situation. Xuanhuan Kui carefully scanned the content of the message, and his brows furrowed deeper and deeper. After a while, after he finished browsing all the messages, his face became uglier. This bunch of rubbish, not a single one of them found the trace of the group of black-clothed men. Xuanhuan Kui growled, his eyes extremely resentful. The faces of the saints and ancestors beside him turned pale instantly after hearing this. This time, they went out to look for the black-clothed men not only by themselves, but also by many elite deacons of the Golden Light sect, more than 3,000 in total. But in the end, no one was found. The Golden Light sect was so embarrassed. These old guys also lost face. I don't care what method you use, I must find the trace of those black-clothed men within 3 days, otherwise you will be expelled from the sect. Xuanhuan Kui snorted coldly, left a cold voice transmission, turned around and left. The remaining elders shook their heads. They knew that Xuanhuan Kui was definitely not joking. Although the loss of Jingguang sect this time was not serious, it was in an unprecedented crisis. If they could not find the trace of the black-clothed man, they would be in a passive position. However, even the saints could not find the trace of the black people. With the strength of the deacons, it would be difficult to make a breakthrough. Thinking of this, many saint elders could not help but worry. But in this situation, there is no better way to worry. They can only put their hopes on the deacons. Alas! All the elders sighed and walked towards Jingguang sect with a heavy heart. Then, many elders followed Xuanhuan Kui back to Jingguang sect. Just after entering the mountain gate, Xuanhuan Kui's footsteps suddenly stopped. Deputy leader, what's wrong with you? Seeing Xuanhuan Kui stop, the elders around were puzzled and didn't understand what happened. Do you think that Jingguang sect seems to have changed? Xuanhuan Kui narrowed his eyes and said slowly. Xuanhuan Kui frowned, feeling a little uneasy. Change? What has changed? Everyone shook their heads, not quite understanding what Xuanhuan Kui meant. I always feel that the atmosphere today is a bit depressing, as if something big is going to happen. Xuanhuan Kui muttered to himself, his brows tightly locked, looking very irritable and anxious. Ah! Is there? Everyone looked surprised and looked around, but did not find any changes. Xuanhuan Kui's brows were getting deeper and deeper. Strange, logically speaking, this illusion should not appear. Deputy leader, you are not thinking about this matter, right? An elder couldn't help laughing and said, don't worry, deputy leader, the deterrent power of our Jingguang sect is still there, no one dares to act rashly. That's right, our camp is enough to resist any force in Piamiao domain, how dare they attack us? Another elder echoed. Hey, I hope Xuanhuan Kui smiled bitterly. Deputy leader, don't worry too much. I believe that group of people will surface sooner or later. As long as they dare to show their heads, I will make sure that they will die without a burial place. Another elder said lightly. That's right. Our Jingguang sect has stood in Piamiao immortal realm for tens of thousands of years and has a profound foundation. How can they afford to offend? That's right. If they dare to step into Piamiao realm, they will definitely not be able to return. Haha, well said, I want to see what courage they have to dare to offend the majesty of our Jingguang sect. All the elders laughed loudly, not afraid at all. As a top-notch sect in Piamiao realm, Jingguang sect is powerful, has a solid foundation, and has a rich foundation. There are also several imperial weapons sitting in it, which is far beyond the reach of ordinary forces. In their opinion, as long as the black-clothed man has a little brain, he should hide obediently. Only idiots will come to Jingguang sect to act wildly. They even hope that the other party would come to provoke them, just in time to get rid of their biggest worry and eliminate the trouble forever. Deputy leader, let's go in quickly and don't waste time here, the elders urged. Xuanhuan Kui nodded slightly, feeling a little relieved. Well, let's go back first. Xuanhuan Kui shook off the distracting thoughts in his mind and led everyone to the Golden Light Hall to discuss how to catch those men in black. Seeing this, the elders hurriedly followed. When they really walked into the mountain gate, Xuanhuan Kui stopped again. He frowned, staring at the Golden Light Hall, his eyes full of doubt. Strange, why is there no one guarding it? Xuanhuan Kui asked in surprise. The disciples of the Golden Light sect were scattered all over the mountain gate. Logically, there should be a lot of people as soon as they came in. However, there was nothing in front of him, not even a ghost. Huh? What's going on? Are they all on vacation? An elder asked in confusion. The other elders looked at each other, all with confused expressions. How is this possible? There are 2 teams guarding the mountain gate in shifts every day. Why is there no one guarding it today? It's really strange. Did they all change shifts? It's impossible. Even if they changed shifts, they need to be notified, but now they haven't received even a single message. The elders talked a lot. At this time, a young man hurried over. "Meet the deputy leader and the elders," the young man saluted respectfully. Yejin Yuankui nodded calmly and asked, "Where are the gatekeepers? Where have they gone?" To answer the deputy leader, "The gatekeeper has gone back," the young man replied. "Gone back?" Jin Yuankui frowned slightly. The young man continued to explain, "Senior sister Jin has found a perfect husband and said that she will hold a wedding with that man today. The brothers and sisters have gone to help and specifically asked the disciples to guard the mountain gate." "What? Jin Kankan is getting married?" The elders were stunned. Jin Yuankui was even more confused and said dully, "Jin Kankan? Hasn't she never left the mountain? When did she find a husband? And why didn't I know?" Jin Yuankui's expression seemed very confused. As a master, he didn't even know that Jin Kankan had found a husband. "Deputy leader, according to the gatekeeper disciples, this marriage was decided privately by senior sister Jin, so you don't know," the young man replied. "Ridiculous. It's just nonsense," Jin Yuankui shouted angrily, his face flushed instantly, and he was furious. He didn't expect that. He only went out for a trip, and he heard such news after returning. He didn't tell him about such a big thing, and he didn't take him, the master, seriously at all. "Deputy leader." Hearing Jin Yuankui's roar, the young man was frightened and trembled all over, lowered his head and dared not raise his head, fearing to be punished. "This stinky girl is too outrageous. Where are they now?" Jin Yuankui gritted his teeth and cursed, angry and disappointed. In the Jingguang Hall." The young man shrank his neck and said with some fear. Jin Yuankui shouted, "Immediately, go and stop Jin Kankan and that bastard from getting married." "Deputy leader, calm down, we will do it now." Several elders looked solemn, and did not dare to hesitate at all, and immediately ran away. "Humph! I want to see how powerful that man is. He actually dared to hook up with my disciple Jin Yuankui." Jin Yuankui snorted coldly, and was so angry that he blew his beard and glared, looking furious. He thought Jin Kankan was a quirky person, but he never expected that he would be so foolish and get married secretly. Although Jin Yuankui had a bad temper, he loved his disciple Jin Kankan very much, otherwise he would not have allowed Jin Kankan to host the auction. But now Jin Kankan secretly got married behind his back, which made Jin Yuankui feel very ashamed and even a little angry. "Deputy leader, please don't be angry, Jin Kankan must have been deceived." "Yes. I think so too, that kid can't marry Jin Kankan." "Deputy leader, please relax, when we catch him back, we will definitely punish him severely and teach him a lesson for you." The elders persuaded one after another. "That kid better have some skills, otherwise I will definitely let him know what cruelty is," Jin Yuankui said firmly, his eyes flashing with cold and murderous intent. When he thought that his most beloved apprentice was about to get married, Jin Yuankui felt choked up. His only thought now was that he must stop it, lest Jin Kankan suffer. Jin Yuankui turned into a stream of light and shot towards the Golden Light Hall at a speed as fast as lightning. When he passed by, boom! Suddenly, the earth and the sky trembled, dark clouds rolled, lightning and thunder roared. The sky suddenly dimmed, as dark as ink, and you couldn't see your hand in front of you, like the end of the world. The wind raged and whistled, blowing the trees in the mountains and forests, and sand and stones flew. Above the sky, dark clouds rolled and surged, and a huge black vortex appeared, rotating and spreading at a speed visible to the naked eye. This weird scene was terrifying. Crack, crack. In the vortex of dark clouds, lightning snakes streaked across, illuminating the dark night. People did not think much about it, but just thought that it was Jin Yuankui's anger that caused such a huge phenomenon. Many elders were still admiring that the deputy leader's strength was getting stronger and stronger, and a thought could affect the changes of heaven and earth. In the Golden Light Hall, the lights were brilliant. The whole hall was as lively as day. A large amount of festive atmosphere enveloped the hall, filled with laughter. There were countless tables and chairs in the hall, and the tables were filled with rich and delicious food, and the aroma was fragrant. At this moment, in the center of the hall, Jin Cancan, who was wearing a white wedding dress, had a beautiful face and noble temperament, sat at the head. Jin Cancan's pretty face was full of smiles, and her beautiful eyes swept around, as if looking for something. However, she did not see the figure she was expecting, and immediately pouted. But at this time, another very familiar and extremely powerful breath came from outside the hall. It's really outrageous. With a roar, Jin Yuan-kui made a brilliant appearance, sweeping the hall with endless terrifying pressure. Deputy Leader. Seeing Jin Yuan-kui coming, everyone in the hall was startled and saluted. The originally noisy hall suddenly became quiet, and you could hear a pin drop. Master. Jin Cancan's pretty face changed slightly, and she stood up quickly. Her delicate body trembled a little, and she hurriedly shouted respectfully. Jin Yuan-kui's face was gloomy, and he strode into the hall, walked straight to the chief, and sat down on the chair. Everyone was trembling with fear and dared not say a word. Jin Yuan-kui's face was extremely gloomy, staring at Jin Cancan, and said coldly, "Cancan, you have disappointed the master so much. Who allowed you to marry a stranger?" "Master, although the young master and I have known each other for a short time, we are truly in love," Jin Cancan explained aggrievedly. "Bullshit. Do you know the other party's details?" Jin Yuan-kui asked angrily, and his fierce power locked Jin Cancan, as if he wanted to devour Jin Cancan. I. Jin Cancan hesitated. "Jin Cancan, if you dare to hide it from the master again, don't blame the master for being rude to you." "Yes, Cancan, you quickly call him over, let us see who he is. If he dares to bully you, we will definitely skin him." "Yes. Jin Cancan, you quickly call him over, don't let your master get angry again," the elders urged. "Elders, please be patient, I will bring him in now," Jin Cancan smiled sweetly. "Yeah." Everyone nodded gently and waited patiently. Jin Yuan-kui still had a stern face, a ferocious look, and clenched his fists, obviously very angry. After a moment, squeak! The door suddenly opened, and a thin and tall figure slowly appeared in everyone's sight. When they saw the figure clearly, everyone present was stunned. The figure looked only about 20 years old, handsome, with sword eyebrows and star eyes, and a majestic demeanor, exuding an indescribable unique charm. What was even more attractive was his pair of dark and bright deep eyes, which contained a domineering aura that looked down on the world and was breathtaking. The pair of dark and deep eyes seemed to have magic power, making people deeply trapped in it and unable to extricate themselves. "Hi, everyone!" Qin Mu grinned and waved to everyone. Jin Yuan-kui frowned and was about to slam the table and stand up. The next moment, boom boom! In the void, the stars twinkled, the Milky Way hung upside down, dazzling, spectacular and gorgeous, shocking. A destructive aura spread, filling the golden light hall, giving people a suffocating sense of oppression. The Jotian star array open. Qin Mu waved his hand and said lightly, "Next, it's my time." 7 days later, Qin Mu left Piao domain with a full harvest. During this trip to Piao domain, he successfully subdued these forces without making a sound in the absence of the leaders of the major forces, successfully stole their homes, and did not alarm any forces. In just a few days, Qin Mu ruled nearly half of the territory of Piao domain. Now, only some small forces have not been taken down. Of course, Qin Mu doesn't care about those small forces. After all, those big forces have been subdued. Can these small forces still turn the world upside down? 3 days before the centenary celebration of Deoxuan domain, Qin Mu finally set foot in Deoxuan domain. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Len Mi and Buletin Leng. Chapter 479. Deoxuan domain, the largest and most powerful of the 9 domains of the human race, is a veritable holy land for human cultivation. Deoxuan domain is rich in spiritual energy and rich in resources. It is a treasure land that any living being dreams of. Here, spiritual medicines are everywhere, spiritual grasses are everywhere, and rare beasts are everywhere. You can see Donksu everywhere, and even rare birds and beasts at the level of Zandao realm, with terrifying strength, cruelty, and violence. Even at a glance, you can see some low-level spiritual medicines everywhere, which are priceless and extremely rare. As soon as Qin Mu stepped into Deoxuan domain, he felt the rich spiritual power and immortal energy coming towards him. Deoxuan domain is vast and boundless, far exceeding Piamiao domain by several times, and it is prosperous and prosperous. Moreover, because Deoxuan domain is rich in resources, many major forces send disciples to Deoxuan domain for training. Therefore, the competition in Deoxuan domain is extremely fierce. But even so, there are still many people rushing to Deoxuan domain. In this world where the strong are respected, all the cultivators with excellent talents are desperately pursuing higher realms. There are also many casual cultivators who have taken root in Deoxuan domain. Although they are far inferior to the geniuses of the major sects, they are free and unrestrained, and they can be regarded as living a life like a wild crane. This is the treasure land for cultivation that cultivators dream of. Mountains and rivers all emit rich and pure spiritual power fluctuations, and the spiritual energy is overwhelming. Deoxuan domain is the place where the human race gathers, with a total of 8,000 states and 800,000 cities. And each city gathers hundreds of millions of lives, and there are countless human cultivators. There are even saints and more terrifying existences. The cultivation resources and natural treasures here are extremely rich. In addition to martial arts and elixirs, there are many precious and rare refining materials, spiritual fruits, minerals, and other rare treasures. Therefore, there are many shops here, selling various treasures. The prices are extremely expensive, and they are very popular among cultivators. Qin Mu took a few deep breaths of fresh air, feeling the dense elements of heaven and earth around him, and he was immediately refreshed. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth here is so abundant that cultivation can achieve twice the result with half the effort. Qin Mu was full of admiration in his heart, and sighed, no wonder Deoxuan domain has so many strong people. It would be a miracle if they did not improve their cultivation in such an environment. Deoxuan domain is a holy place for cultivators to practice, and it is also a paradise for strong people. Here, as long as you are willing to pay the price, you can get what you want. Of course, the premise is that you must be strong enough. Otherwise, no matter how much wealth or treasure you have, you will not be able to own it. Here, the weak are preyed on by the strong, and only the strong can dominate their own destiny. Without strength, you are destined to be just an ant. Finally arrived at Deoxuan domain. There are still 3 days left, and I should be able to do something. Qin Mu looked at the vast Deoxuan domain and whispered to himself. There are still 3 days before the centennial celebration. Qin Mu doesn't want to waste this time. He wants to find something to do. Then, Qin Mu flew in the wind, turning into a dazzling golden streamer, breaking through the clouds and passing through quickly. About half a day later, Qin Mu came to a towering giant city. The giant city is light purple, with some exquisite and complex rune patterns carved on the surface, flashing with brilliant purple light. The whole city is like a prehistoric beast crawling on the ground, giving people a sense of majesty, solemnity, vicissitudes, and antiquity. Ziyao City. Qin Mu stopped 100 feet away and looked at the giant city. This city is the fifth city of Deoxuan Domain, Ziyao City. The reason why it is the fifth city is because Ziyao City is one of the resident places of Qingyun Temple. And Qingyun Temple is one of the four holy places in Deoxuan Domain, with a strong foundation and amazing strength. One of the organizers of the centennial celebration is Qingyun Temple. Therefore, Ziyao City, as one of the resident places of Qingyun Temple, has a very important position and naturally attracts much attention. The four holy places in Deoxuan Domain are Qingyun Temple, Taizhang Sect, Huiaha, and Wangxiang Palace. The four holy places control the four regions of Deoxuan Domain, north, south, east and west, respectively, and rule hundreds of millions of cultivators. Each holy place is a behemoth and should not be underestimated. Qingtian Temple is said to be able to observe the blue sky and master infinite secrets. Legend has it that there is also a real fairy object hidden, which has the power to destroy the world. Taizhang Sect is the place where Taizhang Tianzun sits and passes away. There is a long sword of the emperor buried in it. It is so murderous that it has killed the emperor and intimidated one side. Wangxiang Palace controls the secret art of Wangxiang. This secret art of Wangxiang was created by Wangxiang Tiandi. It is magical and unparalleled. It can evolve all the heavens and make the enemy defenseless. As for Huiaha, it is a special existence in Deoxuan Domain. The Boundless Sea, as the name suggests, is a vast ocean located in the deepest part of the Deoxuan realm, a land shrouded in chaos and fog, and no one dares to approach it. It is rumored that there is an opportunity to become an emperor in the depths of the Boundless Sea. If one can comprehend the secrets of the Boundless Sea, there will be a chance to touch that glimmer of hope of becoming an emperor. However, the Boundless Sea is full of dangers, and even a powerful saint of the 9th level will find it difficult to get out alive. Therefore, the Boundless Sea has become a taboo, and few people dare to venture into it. However, there are still countless cultivators who come here in admiration, flocking to the Boundless Sea, eager to get opportunities and fortune from the Boundless Sea and achieve immortality. Over time, these people gathered together and gradually formed a new force, the Boundless Sea. The foundation of Huiaha is slightly weaker than that of other holy places. Its elders are basically first and second level saints, and the strongest is only at the level of Saint King. But Huiaha League has amazing potential. They have united and built a powerful force. After the establishment of Huiaha League, it gradually eroded the forces of various parties in Deoxuan Domain and expanded rapidly. In just a few thousand years, it has transformed from a small sect to a superforce that is only inferior to the three top holy places in Deoxuan Domain. It can be seen how amazing their means and influence are. The existence of Huiaha League has also made Huiaha a holy place for cultivation. Every year, a large number of cultivators flock to Huiaha for training and exploration. This also leads to the abnormally rich cultivation resources in Huiaha, and the cultivation speed is generally several times higher than that of the outside world. And the most important thing is that Huiaha League has not gained nothing over the years. They have also gained a lot of benefits from Huiaha. For example, some peerless natural treasures, such as powerful spiritual medicines, and even the remains of ancient fierce birds. Even the leader of the Huiaha League personally comprehended the secrets of the Huiaha and created a set of powerful secrets, which made other forces jealous and showed their favor to it. Over the years, the Huiaha League has grown a lot and its strength has become stronger and stronger. Of course, in addition to these four holy places, there are many other forces. At the beginning, I gave the future empress her death. I became stronger because I was stupid. Author, Leng Mian Buletin Leng. Chapter 481. Qin Mu. As expected of a big place, it is very tolerant, but it actually pulls people in on the street. Seeing the lewd smile flashing in Lao Liu's eyes, Qin Mu felt a chill in his heart, shook his head and refused, "Thank you, I'm not interested." Qin Mu spoke indifferently and raised his feet to leave. Old Lu was stunned for a moment, then smiled awkwardly and said, "Little brother, don't get me wrong, I just see that you are extraordinary and look like a rich and powerful person, and I want to introduce you to some exciting programs." Haha, Qin Mu smiled contemptuously and didn't bother to pay attention. Old Lu suddenly became anxious, and hurriedly blocked Qin Mu's way, and persuaded with a grimace, "Little brother, I am really kind-hearted. Look at the sign of my Lingbao trading company. It's so impressive. Just go and give it a try, don't suffer." After saying that, he directly took out a token and handed it to Qin Mu, saying, "Little brother, take a closer look. Our Lingbao trading company has a profound background and is one of the largest chambers of commerce in Daoxuan domain. We only need to hand over 100 spirit tokens Jing, you can become a formal member and enjoy the most preferential benefits." Oh, Qin Mu's eyes lit up and he stopped, feeling a little moved. He was not impressed by the benefits the old man said, but he was a little interested in the membership system he mentioned. He didn't expect there to be such a thing as a membership system. Seeing Qin Mu stop, an excited smile suddenly appeared on old Liu's face, and he hit the rails while the iron was hot. "Little brother, you can't miss this opportunity. Once you become a formal member, you can enjoy all kinds of things if you want to join our Lingbao trading firm in the future. Discount." Qin Mu reached out to take the token, lowered his head and glanced at it, and found that the token was made of ordinary materials, but it had a simple rune carved on it, which was quite majestic. On the front of the token, the word Lingbao is clearly engraved. On the back, there are also 2 rows of writing engraved. They are the 8 ancient seal characters of Lingbao Trading Company. Children and old men are not deceived. Is your Lingbao Trading Company still doing this? Qin Mu weighed the token in his hand and asked with a half-smile. Old Lu shook his head helplessly and sighed, "I can't help it. This industry is too complicated now, and there are too many colleagues. If you don't make some special features, you won't be able to attract people." "So," Qin Mu continued to ask. Old Lu rubbed his fingers and said with a smile, "So we created this kind of membership system? Although our Lingbao Trading Company only deals in all kinds of magic weapons, elixirs, weapons, etc. in name, in fact we also run gambling houses secretly. Brothels, Golantile houses, inns and tea houses, etc., the profits are considerable every day. Moreover, the headquarters of Lingbao Trading Company also controls the information network system of the entire Daoxuan domain. It can not only investigate the movements of the demon clan, but also collect intelligence. This will be of great benefit to your future cultivation." Having said this, he couldn't help but lick his tongue again and stared at Qin Mu with dazzling eyes, as if he had already seen Qin Mu's promise. "What you said is very tempting. I am indeed very interested, but how can I believe you?" Qin Mu raised his eyebrows. Seeing Qin Mu's hesitation, old Lu struck again while the iron was hot and said, "Little brother, you may not think that this membership fee is very expensive, but there are really many discounts." As he spoke, Lao Lu pointed to a giant tower next to him and explained, "Did you see that giant building? You usually need to pay 500 spiritual crystals before you can enjoy the attentive services of various fairies." At this point, Mr. Lu suddenly covered his mouth with his hands and whispered carefully, "But if you become our member, your first order will be free." Qin Mu followed old Liu's hand and saw a huge building standing in the distance. It towered thousands of feet and occupied half of the street. It was golden yellow and had many obscure lines engraved on the surface. It looked extremely majestic. Judging from the appearance, these giant buildings are indeed very eye-catching. Moreover, there were many enchanting women standing at the door, wearing tulle, revealing their snow-white shoulders and jade arms, posing and posing to seduce the passing men. At this time, many monks passing by would stop and watch for a while. "I'm sorry, A monk like me who is not close to women and who is pure and self-sufficient has no interest in this kind of thing. Qin Mu shrugged, refused directly, and continued walking forward. Seeing Qin Mu's leaving figure, the old man touched the tip of his nose awkwardly, smiled bitterly, and cursed secretly, "You little brat, why are you pretending to be so cool? I'm a top-level cultivator of the sword Dao, and you still dislike me when you come to your door in person." As soon as he finished speaking, the old man's ears twitched slightly, and then he turned around and chased Qin Mu, shouting with a smile on his face, "Little brother, it's not too late for you to listen to what I have to say before leaving." Qin Mu ignored it and continued walking towards the restaurant ahead. This restaurant is large in scale and imposing, with a total of 3 floors. It is located in a prosperous place in the downtown area and is surrounded by people. "Welcome, may I ask who are you?" 2 rows of scantily clad waitresses stood at the door, bending down to salute respectfully. One person, Qin Mu said. Hearing this, the eyes of the waitress visibly lit up. Their job as waiters is to receive all kinds of monks, and they have developed a good eye for a long time. With Qin Mu's temperament and appearance, he must be no ordinary monk. If you can chat with him for a few words, you might be able to get to know him. "Master, please come this way." The waitress' attitude became more respectful, and she led Qin Mu into the restaurant diligently. Wait a minute, there are 2 of us." Just as Qin Mu entered the restaurant with the waitress, there was a shout from behind. Old Lu followed quickly, squeezed the waitress aside, and flattered, "Little brother, my last name is Lu, and the single character is Chang. We can go together, which is also considered to be a care." "Sorry, I like quietness." Qin Mu glanced at old Lu and refused without hesitation. Oh, little brother, just let me accompany you, what if you get lost?" Old Lu said bitterly. Qin Mu shook his head, ignored him, and walked straight into the restaurant. "Hey, you little bastard!" Old Lu glared and stamped his feet angrily. Looking at Qin Mu, who gradually disappeared from his sight, Old Lu gritted his teeth and muttered, "Stinky boy, you wait for me, I don't believe I can't impress you." After that, he hurriedly ran in the direction Qin Mu left. In fact, he didn't have to sell this order, but he saw the difference of this young man in the crowd at a glance. Although Lao Lu is young, he has lived for so long that he has seen all kinds of strange people and things, and he boasts that he has an extraordinary vision. Just now, he secretly looked at Qin Mu from a distance for a long time. The more he looked, the more surprised he felt. The more he looked, the more he felt that Qin Mu exuded an unusual mysterious aura. Finally, he dared to conclude that this young man must be extraordinary. This is definitely a potential big customer. If he can fool him, will he still worry about not making money in the future? After entering the restaurant, Qin Mu looked around and found that the furnishings in the restaurant were quite elegant and the layout was exquisite and elegant. There were landscape paintings hanging on the walls, and the tables and chairs were all well carved, with flowers, birds, insects and fish lifelike. There were even a few landscape paintings hanging on the walls. They seemed to be placed randomly, but they were in line with a certain way of heaven. In addition to the paintings hanging on the walls, the entire restaurant was filled with extremely rich spiritual power fluctuations, which gathered in the air one by one, forming a light blue mist. On the roof and pillars of the restaurant, there are formations and prohibitions flowing, faintly emitting a strong pressure. The hall is spacious. Sitting by the window, you can overlook the prosperous scene in the city, and even see the towering mountains in the distance, emitting a faint spiritual light, which is dazzling. There are many guests in the hall, some sitting on cushions with their eyes closed, some whispering, some drinking tea, or chatting in groups of 3 or 2, and the atmosphere is harmonious. These guests are all people with high cultivation, each of them has a majestic aura, and their cultivation has reached the realm of Dongxiu. In addition, the quality of the spiritual food here is also extraordinary. Eating a meal here is probably not cheaper than buying a high-quality spiritual medicine. The cost of eating, drinking, and having fun here is too expensive. The price of each meal is unbearable for ordinary cultivators. Therefore, this is not the residence of ordinary cultivators. Those who can come here are all cultivators with deep cultivation or extraordinary family background. Young master, what do you need? A beautiful waitress in the restaurant walked up to Xuanhuan and asked gently. The waitress had a pretty face and a graceful figure. Her every move was full of elegance, especially her plump chest that attracted the eye. Unfortunately, she ran into Xuanhuan. Among the 9 human realms, if anyone had tasted the most fairies, Xuanhuan would undoubtedly be the top. The waitress's appearance was only considered upper middle class, and Xuanhuan was too lazy to even look at her. He said indifferently, "A pot of wine. Send all the signature dishes you are good at here." The waitress's eyes brightened instantly when she heard this. This young master actually ordered a large table of dishes. He was really generous. A charming smile appeared on the waitress's face, her body trembled slightly, and she agreed delicately and retreated. Not long after, several women brought up plates of hot dishes and placed them on the table, with a fragrant aroma. "Sir, take your time. If you have any instructions, just call us." Several women knelt in front of Xuanhuan in unison, their voices sweet. Yes, Xuanhuan nodded. After several women stood up, they respectfully left the restaurant. Before leaving, they couldn't help but glance at Xuanhuan and flirt with him. Unfortunately, they met Xuanhuan, who had no interest at all and didn't even bother to look at him. Xuanhuan picked up the wine glass and tasted it. Soon, the waiter of the restaurant brought wine, spiritual fruits, and spiritual beast meat one after another. Xuanhuan sat alone at a table, silently tasting the fine wine and delicacies, occasionally looking up at the window, looking at the endless streets and rows of shops below. At this time, the sun was setting, and the golden sunset reflected half of the sky red, which looked as magnificent as a burning cloud. "Well, it's getting dark soon. Don't you really want to consider our membership service? I guarantee you a different experience." Old Lu smiled and approached Xuanhuan, rubbing his palms and saying flatteringly. "No need," Xuanhuan said coldly. Old Lu persevered and continued to persuade, "Young master, let me tell you this, as long as you come to our house, you will definitely have unexpected gains." He didn't feel strange at all, and sat opposite Xuanhuan very familiarly, and poured himself a glass of wine and took a sip to moisten his throat. Xuanhuan glanced at him, his eyes were deep, and he continued to taste the dishes with his head down. "Young master, come, I'll toast you a glass." Old Lu picked up the wine glass diligently, gestured to Xuanhuan, and then raised his head and drank it all. Looking at his posture, it seemed as if he would not leave unless Xuanhuan drank. Xuanhuan still ignored him. To be honest, if Xuanhuan hadn't come to Deoxuan domain for the first time, he would really think that this guy recognized him. Otherwise, why would it be like a dogskin plaster that cannot be shaken off? But Xuanhuan also really admires this guy. He is worthy of being a salesperson in a big place. His persistence and shameless character alone surpass many people. Old Lu didn't care and drank 3 glasses of wine by himself without any courtesy. "Sir, which sect are you from?" After drinking for 3 rounds, Old Lu finally couldn't control his temper, stepped forward and asked tentatively. Xuanhuan raised his eyes and glanced at him. "Tianlan territory," Xuanhuan replied calmly, his tone so indifferent that people couldn't tell what he was really thinking. Old Lu was startled after hearing this. He originally wanted to make a lie, but he didn't expect that the young master would be so honest, so he said it himself. "But, Tianlan territory? Isn't that the most remote place among humans? I heard that the resources there are poor, the population is sparse, and it is basically impossible to find a decent sect. But this young master has such an extraordinary temperament. Is he really from the Tianlan region?" Old Lu hesitated a little and cautiously tried, then, Then dare I ask the young master his name? You don't need to know, Qin Mu said straightforwardly, with no intention of revealing his identity. Old Lu was stunned for a moment, then he laughed dryly and said awkwardly, so that's it? Although he was rejected, he was not discouraged. On the contrary, he became more and more convinced that this young master's background was not simple. Thinking of this, old Liu's attitude became more and more enthusiastic, and he continued with a smile, young master, I have some news here. I don't know if you are interested in it. Huh? What's the news? Qin Mu looked up at him and asked lightly. Hey, since the young master is here, he must be here for the centenary celebration. Old Lu pretended to be mysterious, and when Qin Mu didn't speak, he continued. Everyone knows that this event is jointly organized by the 4 holy places of the Daoxuan domain. It specially invites geniuses born within 100 years of each major sect of the human race. The bones of the participants cannot exceed 100 years. Not only will you be rewarded after you obtain the ranking, but you will also be able to enter the secret realm for trials, and this secret realm is the ancient starry sky battlefield. It is said that there are many treasures in it, and some even contain the opportunity to become an emperor. In addition, it is said that a shocking battle broke out in the ancient starry sky battlefield, and many powerful people died. The ruins left behind are very terrifying, and some even contain clues to the road to immortality, old Lu said excitedly, spitting. Flying, saliva splashed on the tablecloth. Qin Mu leaned back, turned his head to the side with slight disgust and said, no need to talk about these nonsense anymore, tell me something I don't know. Ahem, old Lu cleared his throat awkwardly and lowered his voice, as far as I know, Qingyun Temple seems to have received some news. They are determined to win this ancient starry sky battlefield and are fully prepared. It is said that the early start of the centenary celebration was proposed by Qingyun Temple. Moreover, Qingyun Temple also asked their guardian elder Yanzi Genren to go to other major areas to spread the word. He looked very anxious, which was completely different from the past style. Let people can't figure it out. Qin Mu narrowed his eyes and drew a playful arc at the corner of his mouth, is this what you want to tell me? Lao Lu had a matter-of-fact expression, yes, are what I said exciting enough? Qin Mu smiled and asked without comment, do you know any other news about Qingyun Temple? Lao Lu opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but suddenly closed his mouth with a look of embarrassment on his face. Qin Mu took out 500 spiritual crystals and said calmly, I will become a member. Old Lu immediately beamed, hurriedly picked up the money, and said, it's easy to talk, why don't you come and sit with us, let's enjoy the exciting program, chat slowly, and relax after the chat. He stretched out his greasy hand and patted Qin Mu on the shoulder. Unexpectedly, before he touched the corner of Qin Mu's clothes, he was knocked back several steps by an invisible force and fell heavily to the ground.